and all this.
What's the subject y'all be talking about?
So, welcome to HUMANE Mind, and this is live stream number 23. I can't believe it's been 23 weeks of me doing this, and I've even missed a couple of weeks. So been doing this for a while. That's pretty good. All right, and the title for today's video is Forget Gun Control. We Need Criminal Control. So that is the topic for today. We're gonna be talking about the school shooting that happened on Valentine's Day, and just gun control in general, because hey, something bad happened, therefore we need to do this whole political movement and try to use a catastrophe in order to promote a political agenda. That's the state of the world right now. Something bad happens, use that to push a policy that you couldn't get through otherwise. Don't
Oh,
wait for level heads.
we can't get gun control policy passed through anyway. And the NRA, funds the campaigns of damn near half the politicians.
Look at the statistics of how
Yeah,
much
but
money the
ultimately, if the
NRA
voters
has
didn't
spent.
vote for those politicians,
Yeah, look at the
it wouldn't really
statistics
matter.
for how much the NRA spends versus how much unions spend, and tell me who is running.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is.
It's
like
clearly the NRA.
Yeah, clearly the NRA with their like what 4 billion over the course of 10 years, as opposed to the unions, which are it's what like 4 billion a year or something. It's something stupid like that. I'll look up the exact numbers while we wait.
I forget the exact numbers, but I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
you're right. The unions outspend the NRA by a vast margin.
Yeah, like they spend more
Yeah.
in 1 year than
Yeah,
the NRA has spent in the last 10 years. It's something.
Yeah,
It's
this
ridiculous.
entire widespread category of organizations spends more than one organization. Who would have thunk it?
Okay, the NRA spent 144 million on outside spending.
And how much did the biggest union spend?
Okay, so when you're talking about the biggest unions, right?
Union.
Are they all spending, or does it matter if they're combined spending or if they're spending as a single unit? Does it matter?
Yes, it does. If you're comparing one organization to another organization.
Okay, so what other organizations are unifying with the NRA to protect the Second Amendment? How many other people, like how many groups, are aligned with the NRA and
there are a few other gun rights organizations,
okay. Yes.
but none are nearly as big.
And what are all of the unions promoting? Are they all promoting the same agenda, or are they promoting different agendas?
Pretty much, unions give like 90% of their donations to Democrats.
So
I would hope for workers'
you can't
rights.
compare a group of people all pushing a similar agenda and all working for the same thing to one single person. Why not? If I am on a basketball team and I'm the only person who showed up and there's 5 other people on the other team, do their scores not count? Do they have to count their scores individually, or is it just 5v1?
Well, if you want to make it a fair comparison, you do it 1 versus 1.
But it's not a fair fight. It is not 1v1. It's not me versus 1. It's not 1-on-1 hoops. It's a 5v1. So they are acting as a single unit. So why would you the only reason to split them up is because I don't want to lose this argument, so I'm going to split them up and treat them as if they're individuals.
Yeah, you're comparing literally an entire category of organizations to one singular organization.
Well, that is okay. Let's say the entire category of gun advocates versus the entire category of anti-gun regulation or advocates, and to anybody else who controls politicians. Let's compare those two groups.
Yeah. Anywho,
oh, okay. You don't want to do that
this still doesn't.
See the numbers are. It's
yeah,
like 10 times.
Huh?
It's like 10 times the amount, right?
Yeah, and do they get their policies passed?
The amount of the NRA.
Do the unions get their policies passed? No, they don't.
Mm-hmm. Are you kidding me?
They obviously don't.
Like that's what the teachers' unions, education, all this crap that they're pulling, shutting down charter schools.
Yeah, what are you
because
talking about?
What about workers' unions?
Unions
What
will
about
regardless.
factory workers' unions? What about iron workers' unions?
they all still exist and they get paid and they're leeching money out of the system. That's I don't understand what your argument is
the
here.
Democrats
They're
have
getting
like
their way.
they're obviously
uniformly.
not getting their way.
How are they not getting their way?
Middle class wages have been stagnant since the 1980s.
And what does that have to do with unions not getting their way? You're assuming that unions want middle class
If
wages
unions
to go
are
up.
to be
If they want them-
bribing Democrats for workers to do their policy positions, wouldn't one of their policy positions be, hey, let's increase the wages of workers?
Well, unions don't care about the wages of workers. Unions care about the wages of the union.
So they're not left wing.
I mean, I guess you could say they're not left wing, but I don't know how that left because you're saying the left wing wants the workers' rights and then the right wing doesn't.
Obviously. Obviously, the right wing does not give a shit about workers' rights.
Yeah, okay, this is a separate topic, and maybe we'll get into the whole.
Yeah, you're the one who's going off onto unions.
Because you brought up the funding of the NRA, which the funding of the NRA towards lobbying is a drop in the bucket towards the entire amount of money that's spent in lobbying. So you're talking about a bucket in the ocean when it comes to spending on lobbying. It's ridiculously
it's still bribery that's going on. It's still the NRA. Hey,
okay, if you got a problem with that, you should
mute
have a
yourself.
problem with all lobbying.
Wear earphones.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to look up the exact statistics. I know it's way one-sided here.
Mute.
Yeah. Didn't Donald Trump get paid like $23 or $30 million by the NRA? You could forget any reasonable gun control legislation getting passed. Even a fucking milquetoast, watered down background check.
Sorry, what? Okay, so the NRA paid Donald Trump several million, and he's a billionaire. You do realize that's several thousand times that.
He's not a billionaire. His net worth is actually negative $60 million.
Okay, yeah, he's broke and he's just living off of the taxpayer dime. Good call.
No, he's living off the goodwill. Holy shit! If you're not talking, mute your fucking self. Josh, mute yourself.
I wasn't talking.
What the heck is?
You're making all kinds of racket in the background.
Yeah.
All I did was move.
All right.
Yeah, and it sounded like a fucking earthquake going on.
I'm not hearing hardly any of that, so maybe it's your audio settings, man. Why are you putting your crotch up to the microphone? I'm gonna shut off your camera there for a little bit there. I'm not sure what you're doing.
This whole stream is about to get a whole lot more kinky. Ugh.
Oh, that's only available when it's on the air.
Me, I'm sorry for that. It was just that I was trying to plug my earphones into the back because the one on the side of this doesn't seem to work.
All right.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. So what I was looking
But
up,
are we on air?
Yeah, we're on the air. We're just streaming through OBS instead of through the Hangouts.
Oh.
Okay. So we're talking about lobbying and money being spent there, and if you've got a problem with the NRA, you should have a problem with anybody else who spends money in lobbying, because you're saying it's a bribe, and they're saying that, oh, Donald Trump is broke. Apparently, he's worse than broke. He's more in debt than I am right now. That's what you're saying right now. Is that I am richer than Donald Trump?
Have you not looked up his net value
or $60 million in debt?
Have you not looked at his net value?
So
it was done by, I believe, Forbes. I think it was Forbes, who calculated Donald Trump's net worth, and he's $60 million in the hole.
So how did he manage to spend what 30 million on his campaign? Is that all borrowed money? So that's what put him in the hole?
That's the thing. He's in debt to so many fucking people. He's in debt to bankers. He's in debt to everyone.
So it says 3.1 billion USD. So I guess he has bribed Google into saying that he's worth less than that. Amazon caused Donald Trump to
So I
lose
said, just let
400
Geico help you
million
get affordable renter's insurance.
in net worth. So he was at positive 340 million, and then Amazon caused him to lose 400 million, and now he's at negative 60. That's how that works.
Let me look it up.
Declined to 600 million. That's not negative 60 million.
He's still not a billionaire.
That if you have 3.1 billion and you lose 600 million, you are still a billionaire. That's how that works. But
yeah, as
according
of
to Forbes
September,
research, yeah,
the number I was citing was during the presidential campaign. So this is sometime afterwards.
Forbes research,
So glad he's asleep.
So glad we can pay our Geico bill from anywhere
Of September
24/7.
2017.
When is the
The number I was citing was during the presidential campaign. And
what's the date on this?
or was it The Economist? I forget.
This story appears from November 14th, so of 2017.
All right, is this better?
So that was during the election. He was worth 3.1 billion, and he lost 3.1 billion from November till today, and now he is negative 60 million. So,
If you're not even gonna listen to what I'm saying, why should I even
I'm
bother?
looking at the article right here. I'm gonna link
It
it
says
in the chat.
as of September 2017.
As of September 2017, he's worth negative 60 billion or 60 million.
Okay, I said this like 4 fucking times, so I'll repeat it one last time. The number I was citing was during the presidential campaign.
During the presidential campaign, he was worth negative 60 million, and then
That
he
was
made
his net
3.1
worth.
billion by November.
It's 3.1 billion as of September 2017.
And so he's lost 3.1 billion since then. I don't understand. So you're saying he was negative 60 million back in September, or you're saying he's negative 60 million now?
During the presidential campaign,
Yes.
Donald Trump was worth negative 60 million.
How?
Because
is
of
he now
because
worth,
of all his
how is
debt.
he worth 3.1 billion by November of that same year if he was worth negative 60 million in September? In 1 month, he made $3.1 billion.
Did they
He is the best businessman I have ever fucking heard of. Like, forget, Jeff Bezos and forget Sam Walton. He made 3.1 billion in a month is what you're telling me right now. From September, he was
Did they
negative 60
consider
million.
his
And then in
debt?
November, Forbes is like, nope, he's worth 3.1 billion.
Did they consider the amount of debt he's in?
Net worth, not gross, net.
Well, they don't. On this Forbes article, it doesn't say what's Donald Trump's net worth. It just says really worth, and it doesn't seem to say anything about any debts he
Forbes
has.
now estimate POTUS's net worth at 3.1 billion. It says it right here.
Yeah, but net worth. Here's the thing: net worth takes into account of debts too.
Yeah,
So
the gross is your overall income. Net is what happens when you take your losses. That's
What
what you
what
have over your debts,
what?
over your losses. Yeah, that's what you have left over. 3.1 billion. That's according to Forbes, which is what you were supposedly citing. I mean, okay, let's actually pull that out. Am I able to cast this? Yes, I am. All right. This is the article I'm looking at. So everybody can join me in this and looking at this article. So I'm not. Oh, do I actually have to go to the? Okay, I have to go. Okay, so this is the article right here. So looking up at the top, this story appears in November 14th, 2017 issue of Forbes. And it says right here, Forbes now estimates POTUS's net worth is $3.1 billion. So it's very possible that he lost $60 million in September of 2017. However, $60 million compared to $31 billion, not even, that's like losing your pocket change. That's like if I lost a $50 bill today, I'd be like, oh, well, that kind of sucks, but it's not like I'm on the street begging. That's what you were implying by saying he was worth negative $60 million. You're saying he doesn't have any actual money, and he's just $60 million in debt, and he needs to find some way to make $60 million to get back to zero. Now, what probably you were thinking
Oh, it was a
is that
Politico
he
article.
lost $600 million in value.
Let's see.
So it went from $3.7 billion to $3.1
It was a
billion, which is a pretty
Politico
significant-
article.
Well, why are you even following that?
Yeah.
So he lost six.
Apparently, there's some
$600 million.
shady accounting that inflates his net worth.
So
Yeah.
so it inflates a negative number into a positive 3.1 billion. Again,
HUMANE, you're not even listening to what I'm saying.
Again, that makes him if he can make that happen and no one puts him in jail for it.
HUMANE, you're not even paying attention to what I'm fucking saying. Yeah, is this the reason why you and I get into arguments? Like it's like you selectively
Because you're talking
cut
nonsense.
out.
You don't think through what you're talking about. I'm just questioning your statements, and I'm like, they don't add up to reality.
The article that I was looking at was actually a Politico article.
Okay.
And
which they are a very reliable source, right?
They tend to be biased towards the establishment. So
yes, a lot of media is. I hope I sound better. I did try.
You sound alright.
Okay, cool.
Let's see. So
Anyway,
according
back
to
to an
them,
earlier discussion about labor unions. I think what happens is labor unions tend to lose touch with their workers because of Mickel's iron law of oligarchy. I don't know if you all are aware of that. I did a video on it yesterday.
I was gonna, I was gonna watch it after this stream.
I'm not familiar with that one actually. So
yeah, I've been meaning to watch it.
Let me pull up.
Well, what it means is that there's a tendency for a bureaucratic elite to develop within an organization as it expands and demands on it become more elaborate. And as a result, the elite starts losing touch with the constituents. one of the things, and it becomes less democratic in practice.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense, and that's if you're paying attention to trends, that seems to be a pretty common occurrence. Is the people who are in charge, they want their way, and well, oh, who cares if the people, if the people don't want that sort of thing, and that's how you get the King George situation. That's how you get all of these leaders where the people revolted against them, like the revolution in France is, like, so they started off maybe being a little bit like treating their people well, but eventually they get to the point where they are completely detached from their citizenship, and
Yes.
They just completely completely ignore them and say, oh, they're just the common low folk, they don't matter anymore, and they stop trying to make their lives easier, or at least tolerable, and then the people
Yes.
revolt. Yeah.
And of course, part of this is that the membership doesn't really care about all the details and whatnot, and there's a tendency for people to defer to leaders or experts. And if you think about it, sometimes in an organization, decisions have to be made very fast.
Yeah, so it's what it sounds like is that people are given a position of authority because they may have made one good decision or a couple good decisions, or they were good in a leadership role, and then they start
Yes.
resting on the laurels of their past victories, and they forget, oh, this is supposed to be something I need to continually do. And they're like, oh, remember that time I helped you out back then? Remember when I got us the dental plan for our union? They just keep
Yeah.
focusing everybody
And
on
part
what
of
they
it
did in the
too is
past, and then
that
they get to do
this
whatever they want.
leadership will reward followers,
Mm-hmm.
and the leadership tends to control information. And to be honest, how likely are you to care about a whole book of information that you would use to make a decision? How about 1,000 of you?
Well, it depends. I mean, like, there might be individuals who care because they have an interest in it. It's the same. This is the same kind of theory that applies to voting in general, right?
Yes.
It's your vote doesn't count, so why spend a whole lot of time investigating and researching political? You just vote for the guy who makes who you think is like, oh, he sounds cool. I'd have a beer with him, right? That was the reason that a lot of that was that the I don't know. Oh, there was a study done, and they were talking about why did you or the most likely factor when determining a presidential candidate. Like this, it's not their policies per se. It's the which one would you rather have a beer with, and that's when they were talking about that when George W. Bush was elected. It was a poll on which one had that I guess
Yeah.
charisma or whatever. People were more concerned about that, and when they were asked about his policies, they're like, "Wait, what? He has policies?" So
Yeah, that's part of it.
I think Donald Trump thoroughly disproved that idea with this most recent election.
Well, I think that the most effective leaders, if you look at Machiavelli, he would say that you want someone who you can fear rather than one you would like. And of course, the question was, is it better to be loved or feared? And he would say that it's better to be feared if you can't be both. Ideally, you want a bit of both,
Yes.
loved and feared. But keep in mind, too, that there is a difference between being feared and being despised.
Yeah, it's because the fear in that sense is a bit of like reverence. It's like, yeah, sure, you're my buddy or whatever, but when you get mad, I'm like, okay, nope, not gonna push the angry bear. That's the sort of fear you need that in a leader. Is the sure they're you want that that kind of let's see, you want them to feel like that friendly kind of guy. Like this is the whole shaking hands and kissing babies and all that sort of thing that politicians do. You want that aspect of it, but you want them to be able to go into full leadership mode, right? So this is something that Donald Trump kind of demonstrated when Kim Jong Un was talking about his rocket program. And he's like, oh yeah, you got a button on your desk. Oh yeah, well we've got enough nukes to destroy your entire country. Bring it on. And it's that kind of aggressive, or that and everybody's like, oh, he's scary. He's starting World War III. I'm like, no, that's what you have to do. He's like, okay,
no, that's like the last thing you want to fucking do.
If they're talking shit, and he's like, okay, well, you want to start something? Don't start this, because you will walk away, or you won't walk away from this. That's the attitude.
North Korea will.
No, and what happened immediately after that? Within the same week, North Korea's like, okay, we'll play nice with South Korea, and we'll join up and do the Olympics, and yay! And have you heard anything about their nuclear program since then?
Yeah, and I mean, you had some very
they
effective
still have
leaders.
Nukes.
They still have.
Donald Trump is literally playing with fire.
Have they been threatening with them? No.
They still do. We still do. We
I can think of a good example. Another good example. Back in the 1960s, you had Ronald Reagan versus the college hippies, and he was going, what is there to negotiate? You all knew the law. I mean, that's a classic line.
Yeah.
You all knew the law. And I mean, he had the National Guard when there was a protest about building a building on the UC campus.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember.
Are you guys making the point that Donald Trump threatening North Korea with nuclear war was a good idea?
No. Well, I mean, I think it actually was a good idea, but we're talking about political leaders needing to have that ability to be feared, right?
Yes.
If a leader was saying like, "Oh, come on, North Korea, calm down. This is not." No one takes because that's kind of what Obama did for most of his presidency. He was just like pandering. It's like, okay, was it Iran?
Yeah.
Iran, hey. Don't
try anything. Are you guys so fucking full of shit? Obama is just as fucking hawkish on Iran and North Korea as any other fucking president.
We gave them billions of dollars, and they were like, "Hey, well now."
We did not give Iran billions of dollars. We gave them their own money back.
No, we didn't. We gave.
Yes, we did. We absolutely fucking did. So obviously, you've never read the fucking Iran deal. What were we doing
with their money? Why did we have their money in the first place?
Because we seized it.
Iran.
Because
we seized Iran's money.
We seized Iran's money. When the current government took power, they overthrew our puppet and put in someone else we didn't like, and therefore they're our enemies ever since then. Iran,
Ahmadinejad, right?
Saudi Arabia is a greater threat to the United States than Iran ever will be. Saudi Arabia actually attacked us on 9/11.
I am not disputing that. I'm confused as to what you're talking about in the Iran situation. How is that their money, and what?
It was their money. We seized it.
When
Iran overthrew our puppet, our dictator puppet that we installed.
Iran? But you're talking about, so is this prior to Ahmadinejad, or you're saying Ahmadinejad was our puppet?
Yeah, do you have like no idea of the history of Iran?
Not your version of it.
No, not my version, the actual history.
Hold on, what I think it is, are you talking about when there was a leader before the Ayatollah who we supported, and then the Islamic Revolution came, and he fell back in 1979, 1980. Are you talking about that?
Yeah, I think the Shah of Iran, Mohammed Reza Shah of Iran, was our puppet in Iran before he got overthrown.
Okay, so this was in the 80s, and so that $8 billion was their money from the 80s?
I'm not sure,
I think it
but
was in 1979 that he was overthrown.
Okay,
the money.
1979 revolution. Yeah, that's the okay. So when did we seize their money? And why was that not a bigger issue? I mean, we just basically robbed a country of $8 billion for the course of what, 30 odd years?
Oh my God. I hate news sites that have videos that randomly fucking play.
So we stole $8 billion from them and held it for 30 odd years and then finally gave it back to them. And no one.
I thought it was 2 billion. Hold on.
It was something like, it was 8 billion is the number that comes to mind. I might be wrong on that. It might be 2 billion, but that's still we took 2 billion from them.
Here's a
30 years ago, and we didn't give it back
PolitiFact
to them
article about it. Handel staff pointed to a March 17, 2016 letter from the U.S. State Department saying Iran had received about 1.7 billion as part of the nuclear agreement. The money was legally due to Iran. The country had paid America for military equipment in 1979, but then the Iranian Revolution came and the hardware was never delivered.
That's 1.7 billion.
All right.
There was something. There was a lot of money around the nuclear deal.
So what I missed?
Here's one that says Obama threw $2 billion into
control
Iran.
part?
Yeah, so I mean, we were getting way off the topic here, but
yeah. We first started talking about how the Republicans will never pass legislation since they're paid for by the NRA, and HUMANE Mind went on to defend the Republicans and went to completely derail the conversation.
I did that, not you bringing up facts that don't add up with what everybody else understands.
Yeah.
As common knowledge.
Oh yeah. The NRA totally does not fund the Republicans' campaigns. The NRA totally did not give Donald Trump
$144 million. That's the NRA's contribution.
Yeah, that's 144 million too fucking much.
So they should be zero. But
yes.
other lobbyist groups, they can donate as much.
I don't believe lobbying should be allowed.
Okay, all right. Then at least you're consistent on that. So okay, as long as nobody gets the lobby, but as long as somebody gets the lobby, the NRA still shouldn't be doing what they're doing. Because right now we don't have.
I believe in publicly financed elections. So I don't think there should be any lobbying or corruption or shit like that.
But there is lobbying right now. So as long as there is lobbying, you're saying the NRA shouldn't be able to lobby like everyone else.
No lobbying should happen.
But that's not reality. I'm in agreement with you that no lobbying should happen.
Yeah, but no lobbying should happen, including the NRA.
Right now, lobbying occurs, and you're singling out the NRA.
No lobbying should happen, including the NRA.
I know, I get you, but you're...
And I'm singling out the NRA because it pertains to the topic at hand, which is gun control.
Okay, but you're also ignoring that there are other advocacy groups that do the exact opposite of what the NRA does, and they fund millions into Congress. There is an opposition...
You did not even bring up that point earlier. You went immediately straight to workers' unions.
Yes, because
which is totally unrelated.
No, because you were talking about the amount that the NRA contributes. You were saying, oh,
I was talking about the
they
amount
run
that
Congress
the
because of their
NRA
contributions.
contributed
I'm
to Donald Trump.
like, they don't run Congress because their contributions to Congress is a drop in the bucket. It's a bucket of water in the ocean. Their amount they're contributing, 144 million, sounds like a lot until you look at the billions that are being collectively donated to the Congress, to their campaigns. It's billions of it's a $1 billion industry.
Yeah, because they're just one organization.
Yes, so just one organization can't control all of Congress. That was the point there.
I never said that the NRA controls Congress.
Well,
the point I brought up is that Donald Trump was paid anywhere between $23 or $30 million by the NRA.
And he desperately needs that because he's negative $60 million of net worth.
He's worth a whole lot less than he claims
to be.
He needs
another $40 million on top of what the NRA gave him. Maybe the Koch brothers can help him out because they're billionaires still, right?
Oh yeah, and they're funding elections left and right.
Yeah, so he's just like, hey, you know what? You guys are billionaires. Just throw me a couple million so I can get out of my debt that I'm in, instead of being worth 3.1 billion in net.
Whatever.
Hey, this is quite odd. I searched up anti-gun politicians are funded by, and then there's this one article that popped up from CNBC. I do not know of how much water you guys hold CNBC, but the title of it is NRA Money Isn't Why Gun Control Efforts Are Failing. Commentary.
Okay.
Well, the gun control efforts fail because our politicians do not care about the positions held by the majority of the country.
It failed because it's the Second Amendment.
No, it failed because the politicians are unresponsive.
Congress shall make no law. That is the entire purpose of the Second Amendment, or of all the Bill of Rights, is that Congress is not allowed to infringe upon these rights, and that's why you see so much fight back from the NRA and groups like that.
Are you allowed to import a AK-47 from Russia?
Yes.
No, you're not.
Yes, you are.
You are legally not allowed to.
Yes, you are.
You are not.
It is not fully automatic. You
can so it's not an AK-47.
AK-47. Yes. No, it is an AK-47 that has been modified so that way it cannot be switched to rapid fire mode.
So it's not an AK-47.
How is it still not an AK-47? It's still
because the process to import a foreign assault rifle
is not an AR-15.
Is
if it's not an AR-15A2, then it's not an AR-15. It's some other type of gun, because
the process of importing an assault rifle is you have to destroy the receiver.
An assault rifle. All right, so an AR-15 is the civilian version. The AR-15A2 has burst fire mode on it, which makes it a machine gun, and that's what the military use. But you're saying the AR-15, the civilian version, is not an AR-15. So
I don't know what fucking words you're trying to put in my mouth, but I'm just going to deny it.
Okay, so an AK-47
I have a OG Portuguese AR-10 in my closet right now. When my dad imported it from Brazil,
it's not automatic, so it's not an AR-10. You're using the wrong name.
The receiver was destroyed, so it's an AR-10 converted. It's actually technically a parts kit.
According to your own argument.
It's technically a parts kit that was rebuilt into an AR-10 that without the select fire capability.
The point I'm getting at is just because a gun doesn't have the same fire modes doesn't make it a completely different gun. It's a different
legally speaking, it actually does. Because it's legally a parts kit when you import it.
So, okay.
Yeah. And it's not all original parts. You still have to. But the point I'm trying to make is Congress has made legislation that has infringed upon your right to bear arms.
Yes.
So that whole point that you made
So
is complete bullshit.
No, those infringements did not infringe the right to own arms. It was to own arms with certain armaments. I disagree with those decisions. I don't think any type of gun should be banned, or any type of gun should be outlawed, including machine guns and automatic fire weapons, up to and including bazookas. Anything that the military has, the civilian population should be able to have as well.
So nukes?
Why not? So if you're a civilian,
you want civilians to own thermonuclear weapons.
Nukes should be hard to come by anyways, whether they were legal or not.
How expensive is a nuclear weapon? Can you go down to the dollar store and buy one?
I don't care. I don't fucking care how expensive they are. The fact that you want citizens to be legally allowed to own such weapons, a fucking billionaire can just go to Russia, buy some uranium, some weapons grade uranium,
and then in the war,
and he'd be able to detonate it inside of a fucking city. And who the fuck's
you know what? Right now that you were just complaining about the leader of North Korea, guess what he can fucking do? Exactly that. What government is over the North Korean emperor, God Emperor, that is going to stop him from launching a nuke? Oh, you have the same fucking situation where someone...
It's called the United States of America.
Exactly.
If North Korea tries anything, they're wiped off the face of the fucking planet.
And
yeah, so I mean, it's
unfortunately, South Korea will be too.
So you're saying one billionaire goes out and purchases a nuke in Russia, and everybody who doesn't want to die from said nuke doesn't have an interest to stopping that guy from setting it off?
If he does it in secret, how the fuck are they gonna know?
If the leader of North Korea does it in secret, how the fuck are we gonna know?
He doesn't do it in secret.
Why would? How would do we?
Hey, he does public fucking demonstrations showing off his fucking nuke.
I get that he does public demonstrations. That's all for show. He's not. I don't think he actually wants to destroy us because he knows that would make North Korea a permanent desert up there. We would firebomb the hell out of that place. So it's a show of power. He's trying to get attention. But if he actually went through with that, or if we actually thought he was going to go through with that, we would preemptively attack him. Same thing with a billionaire going out and buying a nuke. If we knew the intention, we would do everything we could to stop them. Now, if
another part too
really wanted
is
to send an active nuke,
saying, if you do this, we will wipe you off the face of the earth. In other words, mutually assured destruction of both parties.
Yes, mutually assured destruction. That is it works for nations. Why wouldn't it work for people? Like, hey, mutually assured destruction is if you have a weapon, I should have a weapon too, because hey, you may shoot me,
because some people can become mentally disturbed. Some people just not care. Some people just want to watch the world burn.
Yes. Which is why this is why some people exist like that, which is why we need to be able to fight back against them.
So one way of fighting back against them is not let him have nukes in the first place.
So one way to fight against them is to make sure that nobody has a weapon, or at least nobody has the same caliber of weapon. That's your solution. It's not the not
allowing people to own nukes is such a ridiculous idea that I want to ban all guns.
And keep in mind another bit to this discussion. You have nuclear power plants where the intent is not to destroy, but those have to be very carefully regulated to prevent accidents that lead to destruction.
Okay. So
yeah, and nuclear power plants, the radioactive material is nowhere near weapons grade.
Yeah, it's not weapons grade, and a lot of them have, especially this is something I was researching years ago called a pebble bed reactor. You cannot weaponize that, any more than you can weaponize a rock. It's because basically what it is a really hot isotope surrounded by a ceramic core, and they put it in water, and then it heats up and boils the water, and then there's all these little rocks that are really, really hot, and you're like, okay, you You can't turn that into a nuclear bomb. It's just a bunch of hot rocks. You could drop it on people, I guess, but then that have the same effect.
The best you can do is turn them into a dirty bomb.
Some reactors, although most of the modern reactors, all of the radioactive material is used up in the process, and so there's very little nuclear waste, and there's very little to actually turn into a weapon. It's because they release energy slowly over time. It is very hard to make a nuclear weapon has to have a huge chain reaction of atomic energy release, whereas most of our nuclear reactors are set up for that slow burn. There's not that chain reaction. You can't get the same kind of effect out of most of our modern nuclear reactors. But going back to the previous point, do you disagree with the notion of mutually assured destruction? Do you think that is a terrible strategy?
Yes.
Is mutually assured destruction, that is not a deterrent to nuclear war?
Oh, it is a deterrent, but it's a horrible idea. Because you're constantly living in fear of one another.
What method do you suggest would be more effective than mutually assured destruction?
Not going to war, period.
No.
Diplomacy.
You just said that there are crazy people out there who want to watch the world burn.
And if they try
so the idea is, it would just be better if all of those people didn't exist. How
the
fuck do you accomplish that?
If we're talking about my ideal system, that would be it.
How do you accomplish that? How do you get rid of the fucking crazies? How do you stop people who just want to destroy things? Your solution
just leave them
is
be
to
and let them die off. Let their own people handle them.
You don't know they're out there. This is the same. This is like the guy who shot up Vegas. How would you have stopped him? Did you know he was going to shoot up Vegas? Nobody knew. He had none of the warning signs.
Well, there have actually would have been several ways of stopping, or at least mitigating the amount of damage he could have done. You could have done an assault rifle ban. You could have done a high capacity magazine ban.
Do you want to do a dragon ban?
By the way, I don't agree with an assault rifle or high capacity magazine ban.
Assault rifle
those are just several examples of gun control legislation that could be done.
Okay, glad you clarified that, because I was getting a little bit confused.
It's not an assault rifle.
A what?
AR does not stand for assault rifle. It stands for
Armalite. It stands for Armalite. I know.
So what the fuck are you talking about with an assault rifle ban? What does that ban? Nothing, because it bans a gun that doesn't exist or a type of gun that doesn't exist. Those are semi-automatic rifles. You can have an AR-15 that looks like a Winchester, like an old-fashioned Winchester.
I really don't give a fuck about your semantical argument. A civilian-owned AR-15 is an assault rifle just without select fire capability.
So basically, you want to get rid of all semi-automatic guns with a barrel and a stock. Because you can add a barrel and a stock to a handgun, and it basically is a similar mechanics to an actual to a semi-automatic rifle. That's essentially what it is. It has all the same
let's look up
the
the definition of what an assault rifle is. An assault rifle is a rapid-fire magazine-fed automatic rifle firing an intermediate cartridge.
Okay,
designed
you
for
can do that with a handgun. You can add a stock, and you can add a barrel, and it becomes a semi-automatic rifle.
Well, wait, that's the key word that you mentioned there, Ham, is that you said automatic. The thing about ARs is that they aren't automatic.
Yeah, and the guy in Vegas used bump stocks, which effectively made them fully automatic.
Semi-automatic.
Well,
that effectively made them. If it fires 500 rounds a minute, it's effectively fully automatic.
What gun fires 500 rounds a minute? The gun with
fully automatic
gun. The gun with the infinite clip. Belt fed. That's the only way you're going to get that kind of capacity. Belt fed.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I don't care if you are the guy in the if you're Sylvester Stallone in the Expendables, where you're just changing your clips out. There's no way you can change your clip fast enough to actually fire 500 rounds in a single minute. 30-round capacity for most magazines.
Well, what the fuck are you talking about?
500
rounds a minute is how fast most machine guns fire.
That means he has to switch clips 10 times, at least, for 300. So it's probably close to
At what
15
point are
points?
you do you think I just made? What point are you
Firing a
arguing
gun,
against?
switching out 15 plus clips in less than a minute. You can't do that. That's physically impossible.
At what point do you think I made that you're arguing against?
I'm arguing against the 500 rounds a minute.
So you're saying
you're
saying submachine guns and machine guns that fire 500 rounds a minute do not fire 500 rounds a minute.
Belt-fed guns can fire 500 rounds a minute.
HUMAne, you are literally the stupidest motherfucker I've ever seen on the face of the fucking planet.
You cannot get 500 rounds a minute with any type of handgun or with any type of rifle. It's physically impossible because you have to change clips. You don't have an infinite supply of bullets. The time that you take to drop your clip and replace it with a new one cuts into the 500 per minute.
It doesn't fucking matter the capacity. If it fires,
it does matter because you can't.
If the delay between firing the first bullet and the second bullet is small enough, it fires 500 rounds a minute. Jesus fucking Christ. The M3 grease gun fires 500 rounds a minute. It only has a 30 round capacity, but it still fires 500 fucking rounds a minute. That's the speed it goes.
Okay.
Holy shit.
So if you could fire constantly for the full minute, it would fire 500 rounds.
If you could.
But you can't. So why don't they just say this many? Yeah.
There's no point in saying, oh, it could dump a 30 round magazine in 4 seconds.
So, the Vegas shooter did not fire 500 rounds, and he fired for several minutes. Even with his bump stock, he
fired several thousand rounds. He had multiple AR-15s. He had these huge 120 round drum magazines on his AR-15.
Okay. Okay, yeah, if you got drums on them, that would explain that. Then you possibly could do the 500 a minute.
It doesn't matter how fucking
fire and not bumps fired. So let's see, how many rounds did the Las Vegas?
Well, it seems to me that a lot of guns can be modified in ways that are illegal. For instance, you can't have a sawed-off shotgun.
Yeah.
And you can't have.
Actually, you can't. You just have to get the license for it.
He fired for 10 minutes, and he fired more than 1,100 rounds. Okay.
PTK is asking for a link, apparently.
Oh, I sent it in the... Oh, I sent it in the wrong one, didn't I? I didn't send it in both, did I?
You sent it in Poor Bastards, otherwise Ham wouldn't be able to join.
Yeah, on its way, BTK.
I mean, honestly, I find it incredible that I'm having to explain to you
just like a silly argument. Just like, you can't have a gun that fires this fast. Okay, well, somebody's going to get it. Then what? Oh, well, at least everybody else can't have one that fires that fast. Well, that one guy did get it. He broke the law and got it. Okay, what now?
No. The Vegas shooter did not break the law. He got all legal components and all legally.
Okay.
It was fully within the law. But if we had an assault rifle ban, if we had a high capacity magazine ban, if we had a bump stock magazine ban, he wouldn't have been able to do it.
And if we had a murder ban, he wouldn't have been able to do it either. Oh, wait, we do. So, somebody intent on murdering a lot of people is going to make sure that he stays well within the laws in order to commit mass murder?
It makes it... Oh, my God.
It makes it harder to track him, right? Because...
It makes it a hell of a lot harder for him to commit a mass fucking murder. Are you aware that the United States of America is the only modern nation where we have constant mass shootings that we do? I mean, we have damn near one a month, if not more.
Yeah, mass shootings, 1 a month. Really?
I mean, how many fucking mass shootings were there in 2017?
2017?
2017
there
deemed
was the Las
deadliest
Vegas
year for
one.
mass shootings in modern history.
Yeah, 2017.
Excuse me,
there was
I'll
like
be
3 or
back
4.
in a minute or two.
345 mass shootings in 2017. So not even
Wait.
one a month. Damn near one a day.
Mass shootings?
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Oh no, that's wrong.
That can't possibly be correct.
Number of mass shootings.
If there is,
Oh,
if there
it was 34 mass shootings.
Wow, that's way more than I expected, but that's
Wondering about that.
Yeah.
300 something that's not even.
Yeah. They got mass shootings right here. It's 34, so it's like about 3 a month. Almost once a week.
Yeah, so if you're looking at this article, it does say 345 mass shootings in America in 2017 alone. They've got a very broad definition of mass shooting. Number of deaths, 1. 2,000... What? 2,100... So where are they getting this 300
Number of
from?
deaths.
Where are they getting the 345 number? Okay. So you're saying if you were only allowed to have a handgun and that was it, then all of these mass shootings would stop. Even though there are still mass shootings that happen with handguns. So the only way to stop this is to get rid of all guns.
If you want to do a comprehensive gun ban, you would also ban handguns, especially double stack pistols.
Double stack pistols?
Pistols that fire from a double stack magazine.
Hang on a second.
Blue pills are there, the roller cups.
What is a double stack pistol?
I have to ask you a question, Ham, about what you said earlier. Something you said earlier where you said the reason why there is no gun control legislation put forth, or one of the contributing reasons, is because politicians do not care for what the majority of the populace thinks. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, America is effectively a oligarchy.
Okay, and that makes me bring up, do you think that's the way that everyone should legislate, is based on popularity?
Yeah. I mean, it's I can't think of a better way.
So if I was to become a congressman or a senator by next week or something, you think I should like give up? Say if I give you the benefit of the doubt on single payer healthcare being one of the most popular things in the United States, and say I become a politician next week, you think I should just drop my principle of being against a single payer healthcare system and just go with the flow? Is that what I'm getting at?
Holy crap, they've changed the definition of mass shootings.
Oh.
Hey, who was speaking out about shootings?
Restate that thing again, Zach.
So, say that I give you the benefit of the doubt that single payer healthcare, for example, is one of the most popular things in the United States, or is majority popular. And say I become a politician next week. Do you think that as soon as I become a politician, I should just drop my own ethics of not believing in a single payer healthcare system and just go with the flow? Legislate with the flow.
I believe you should campaign on the principles that you believe in.
And then when you get elected,
Okay,
then you
well
should
then I
avoid
don't
those
understand
because
what
the
this. Really understand what the appeal to popularity is all about. Honestly.
Well, let me put
mean,
it to you this way. Maybe.
Excuse me for a moment. I'm looking. I'm a bit busy right now.
Your stats on the mass shootings is bullshit, and here's why. For a mass shooting in the United States, it's anybody that fires at and wounds 4 people or more, including themselves. That's not even high enough numbers to classify as a mass casualty in a military unit. It's a retarded number. Also, as
Actually,
far
I
as
would classify Charles Starkweather as a mass shooter, even though he did not shoot at himself.
well, I'm saying that the numbers are conflated. That 300 and some odd number is conflated because if I walk into a convenience store and I shoot 3 people and then I shoot myself, that's a mass shooting. Even though any normal person would go, no, that's not a mass shooting. That's 4 people. Also, 90% of the gun violence crimes in the United States are committed with illegally obtained firearms. 90%. And if you compare the gun violence ratio in the United States to other majority white countries, the gun violence in the United States by white people is 0.06%, which is less than that of any other majority country in the world. So it's not the guns.
No, we have
and
got a gang
honestly,
problem.
it's not the white people.
No, we've got a gang problem in the United States. The vast majority of all the statistics that you look at when it comes to guns, they come from gangs fighting one another and shooting at one another. And hey, look, those are mass shootings according to these definitions.
So I'm not trying to come across as racist because I'm not saying, oh, it's just them black and brown people doing it. No, it's the gangs
we need to clarify.
And who's in gangs? Black and brown people.
I think we need to clarify what a mass shooting is.
Well,
a mass shooting needs to be redefined. It needs to be
what I used to understand it as.
It used to be 10 or more victims.
It used to be 10 or more.
Now it's 4, including the shooter.
That's insane.
I'm not sure if that's the case. Hold on, because
look at all these cases: 4, 4, 4, 2 and 2,
See?
3 and 1,
Told you.
1 and 4. 5.
Oh, they're including 2 and 2. They might have even lowered it even more.
Yeah, so
I think we need to look at what
the dead
Hold
injured.
on.
So 2 dead, 2 injured. That's a mass shooting.
Yeah, because
1
that's
dead,
4.
3 injured. That's a mass shooting.
That's 4. Yeah, so it is 4.
Mass shooting.
Yeah.
Yes, and they don't always
4
have to
people
be at the
shooter.
same they don't have to be at the
when
same
somebody
place
goes
at
into
nearly
a
the
zone.
same time.
Yeah, it's when somebody goes into an area expecting to kill as many people as they can. That's a mass shooting. They're talking about.
I disagree because it can also include the case of Charles Starkweather, where Starkweather had killed a family, then
yeah, he was.
Except for his girlfriend, he killed this family, except for this girlfriend. Then about a week later, he and his girlfriend fled.
I wouldn't count that as a mass shooting.
Then they
At least the
killed
first part.
2 teenagers.
That is a
murder
spree. A mass
Then they
shooting
killed
would be
someone else someplace else a little while later. Then they killed 2 other people.
That's a serial killer or serial killing. That's not mass shooting.
A killing spree.
But
mass shooting, you think
but
about Columbine.
but there was very little cooling
shooting
off.
at the theater. Forget that dude's name. That is, it's one location, or it could be multiple locations within a quick succession. Like this is one, whereas the Charles Starkweather, there's breaks in between. It's not like they're just chasing down, killing and killing and killing. That's when you think of a mass shooting. It's just this person is trying to kill as many people within a short amount of time as possible.
But we're talking about breaks of maybe an hour or 2. that kind of thing. And of
Okay.
course,
Hmm.
and you're talking about maybe a period where the main spree was probably, oh, if you lump it all together, it would be within days before he was eventually caught in Wyoming after killing a salesman, I believe. But
Is
it
that the
does,
play?
mass
That's what the
shootings
salesman
don't
is
have to
based off?
be at exactly the same place at exactly
Hmm.
the same time. And as I say, and the difference between a mass shooter and a serial killer is that with mass shootings, you don't have a cooling off period, whereas a serial killer, you
There.
do have a
Yeah.
cooling off period
Okay.
of between maybe months or years.
Or yeah. I would say even a week. That would be a. Well, there's. Hmm. Okay, I guess under that context, yes, I would include Charles Starkweather because the breaks are not that long. It was one
I
continuous
wouldn't.
spree where he killed
I w-
multiple people. How many total was killed in that spree?
Yeah, I wouldn't include the original slaughter of the family because that is a targeted shooting for an ideological reason. Ideologically being, I want my girlfriend to not have to deal with them anymore. Just like the Vegas shooting isn't an act of terrorism because it didn't have political or religious motives.
Yeah.
The shooting, the first shooting of killing the family, it had a motive. Of it had a targeted interest. I wouldn't list that as a mass shooting. I'd list that as a targeted murders.
Okay, reading some of the comments.
I think this whole idea of arguing over definitions kind of silly, to be honest.
No, it's not silly. When you think mass shooting, do you think a guy who robbed a convenience store? Because that's what's going on right now. Do you think a guy who...
When I think of mass shooting, I think of people are dying. They're getting shot to death.
What's also included in those statistics is firefights between two different groups because, oh, hey, the shooter killed other people, oh, and then got shot in return. Oh, that makes the body count more than 4. It's a mass shooting now. This could be... Gang wars are now technically mass shootings.
What exactly is the argument here? The
argument is
we still have a ridiculously high amount of gun violence here in America.
No, we don't.
The majority of it is gangs.
Oh, yes, we do. We absolutely fucking do. Oh, I guess we don't because some fucking moron on the internet says we don't.
No, we don't.
So
Compared to what?
We do because
Give me a country.
Compared to any other modern nation.
White people in the United States commit 0.06% of gun violence, which is lower than any other white country in the world. The major gun violence in this country, and not to sound racist, but it's black and brown people in gangs. It's gang violence. If you remove all the gang violence from your statistics, America's gun problem is non-existent. It's 0.06% of all deaths.
And if you remove all the suicides, and if
that's the
you
other
rule
thing
out all
is
the
they lump
suicides,
suicide deaths into their gun statistics. Yeah. As if we remove
I don't give a fuck about your racist categorization.
It's not racist. It's facts.
Yeah.
Facts aren't racist.
It fucking is racist.
It's based
facts
on
aren't racist.
We have an insanely high rate of gun violence, higher than any other fucking modern nation.
Look at the FBI statistics. They say the race of the shooters and the victims.
I don't give a fuck about the race.
I'm
comparing apples to apples, all right?
The stats that BTK
okay, well, if you don't give a fuck about race, period, then let's compare the United States to Mexico and Honduras. If you don't give a fuck.
You're breaking up, BTK.
Yeah. I don't give a fuck about race, which is why I compare the United States to actual real stats such as high income, standard of living.
And gun violence.
No, we're talking about violence compared to violence. Why are I'm not sure why you're bringing these other things into this.
Because what makes a good these are what makes a good stable nation.
What does that have to do with gun violence? We're trying
because
to
not having gun violence makes a good stable nation.
No.
You know what? In London, they had a major firearm ban, and the knife attacks went up by 40,000. The same year that they had the gun ban.
So the issue is we have
to and what's the murder rate right now? And what's the UK's murder rate right now? It's about 1 in 100,000, right? The United States of America's murder rate is 5 per 100,000. We have 5 times the murder rate of the UK.
Gangs, how many gangs are there in England? How much gang wars are there going on in England?
I don't give a fuck about gangs.
You're
gonna intentionally ignore relevant data.
It is irrelevant
because it doesn't suit your narrative.
In order, we have a problem.
What narrative?
Hey,
my narrative is the amount of gun violence in America is fucking insane. All right.
Agreed. Now, we're not arguing that it's not insane. We're arguing on how do you solve the problem. If you don't understand the problem, your solution to the problem will be wrong, and it could cause more deaths than the problem itself. If you're a doctor and you diagnose somebody with having cancer when they actually have some other type of disease, when they actually have AIDS, and you give them cancer treatment and you kill them, that makes it worse because you incorrectly diagnosed the problem, right? That's
and there was a Harvard meta-study that was done that found that guns are a risk factor for homicide.
Why would you need a Harvard study for that? Guns are a risk factor. Okay, so are cars, so are knives.
That's exactly. You are exactly why we have Harvard do these meta studies to convince morons like you of the fact.
We know guns kill people. It's not like, oh, really? This gun has a potentially potential to
since
cause
guns are a risk factor for a homicide, how about we take that risk factor away, or at least reduce it and mitigate it as much as possible?
Because then you will go back to society before there were guns, when things were unequal, when it was the people who were bigger who raped and murdered the people who did not or could not defend themselves. The gun is the
or we progress to other modern nations who have nowhere near the amount of gun violence that we do.
The murder rate in the United States per 100,000 is 4.88. The murder rate per 100,000 in France is 15. Are you gonna sit there and say that we're that high up?
What fucking stats are you looking at?
Cayman Islands, it's 14.74. In the Dominican Republic, it's 17.39. In Haiti, it's 10.04. In Jamaica, it's 42.21. In the United States, it's 4.88.
But yeah.
We are on par with white countries around the world. I mean,
why do you keep on bringing up race?
Because if we compare the Congo, and if we compare to in Africa,
BTK, you're a fucking liar. The murder rate for France is 1.31. The murder rate for France is 1.31.
Per what?
Per 100,000.
What website are you on?
Nation Master.
Because I was on Unidac.
Anyway, so there is an issue. The problem is guns solved a problem. Guns solved the issue of weak people being picked on by the strong. That's why it's called the universal equalizer. And like I was saying, this is what
it also creates the problem that it's a whole lot easier to commit a murder.
This is what allows an 80-year-old grandpa to defend his family against people trying to invade his home and take their stuff or kill them. This is what allows.
And it's also what allows a 17-year-old weakling to murder 21 children.
Yes, it allows both of those things. So what is the problem? Should we take away the gun, or should we try to find ways to stop the person from wanting to do that in the first place, or stopping them from being able to do that? Now, what would have stopped that? Your solution is to get rid of guns. That way, the old person, the old guy in his home who's being attacked can't protect his family in order to prevent that guy going into the school and shooting up children.
And also, I would like to point out that the homicide rate in the United States is not even in the top 25 in the world per 100,000.
So according to what you're
compared to what other nations? Third world nations? Oh, congratulations! You're comparing America to the bottom of the barrel.
So I'm comparing America to third world nations. So are you saying that the people in third world nations are not as advanced and able to control themselves as people in America? Are you saying that the black and brown people in those countries are more violent? Who's the racist now, bitch?
You're the one who brings up race, you racist piece of shit.
Oh, third world countries, are they white?
No. They can be white. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then what white third world country has a murder rate higher than the United States, or lower than the United States?
I don't know.
More than
I don't give a fuck.
1%.
I don't give a fuck about race.
Yeah, because you're not willing to look at all the statistics.
So he
go ahead, HUMANE.
Okay, so BTK cannot compare the United States to most of the countries in Europe, but he also can't compare it to third world countries. What are we supposed to compare the United States to? What country are we supposed to compare
The United
to?
States claims that we're the greatest nation on the fucking planet. All right, let's compare our nation to the actually greatest nations on this planet.
Which would be? Do you have a specific?
Iceland, Canada, UK, Germany, France, Western Europe, Japan, China, Singapore.
Would you like to compare? Would you like to compare terrorist attacks between the United States and those countries?
Do they pertain to gun violence?
Yes.
Terrorist attacks can be prevented if you shoot the fucker in the head.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about your fucking, racist deflection off to some other fucking subject.
Everything I don't like is racist. Everything I don't like is sexist. Shut the fuck up, you fucking snowflake.
What?
Every point you brought up, you dumb motherfucker, has been about race.
Here's a great meme for you. Hey, America, acid attack. Why don't you get stabbed? Ban guns. Nail bomb goes off. So then gets hit by a truck. Safe like us. Letter from England.
Says the nation with 1/5 of the murder rate that we do. Oh, that also has single-payer health care. Has a higher standard of living. Has higher literacy rates.
When you account for
gun
violence. So, we've talked about this previously on the stream.
They also compare the United States to England on rape. Go ahead and pull that one up real quick.
Yeah, we've talked about this previously on the stream. The entire reason for gang violence is the drug war. If the United States just for once stopped the fucking stupid non-functional drug war, all of these gangs would have no way to fund their operations. They would have no incentive to do anything, so they would either have to resort to petty crime, which does not pay well, and is more likely to get them dead or in jail than selling drugs.
They should legalize drugs. They should legalize drugs.
I agree with you. I fucking agree with you.
90%
if they ban guns
in the United States.
I think I better leave, but it's been nice talking with you.
Change of policy.
Thanks for not being as annoying as these two other pricks.
If they ban guns,
could solve 90% of our gun problems, and it has nothing to do with guns. It has everything to do with the drug war. That one policy.
As I've stated before, guns are a risk factor for gun violence, for murder, for homicide. Jesus Christ. There's a Harvard
Okay.
meta study done on this. There is no refutation.
Okay, so there's also water and electricity are also risk factors. We should get rid of those. Automobiles.
Yeah,
people drown, they're electrocuted.
Hey, we're supposed to be getting rid of
More
all
people
risk
die
factors.
in this country every year in car accidents than they do being shot. So should we ban all guns?
Hang on a second.
I mean, all cars?
Ham's argument is that risk factors should be eliminated. We need to eliminate all risk factors in death. So we need to get rid of
I did not say, oh my God.
Electricity,
here's the difference between a gun and a car. A gun is a necessary mode of transportation. It is necessary for a civilized world. We don't need a fucking gun, all right?
You don't need a gun, right? But you have one.
You don't need a fucking gun.
You have a gun.
Huh?
You have a gun. You have a gun. You have a gun. You have a gun. You just
I
said
have
that
4
in
of
the
them.
stream. You've got 4 guns.
And
you don't need any of them.
Yeah,
According to your own
here's the
argument,
thing.
According to your own argument, you shouldn't have those.
I agree with the facts that in order to make a safer society, you would reduce the number of guns in a society. I agree with I accept those facts. However,
who would have
I do not
those
agree
guns?
with them. I make the compromise to sacrifice some of my safety for the freedom of owning my guns.
If you actually
so you're gonna give away your freedom to get safety.
So what you should have done.
I made the exact opposite point, you fucking retard.
You know what? There's a quote: "If you sacrifice your freedom to gain a measure of safety, you wind up with neither one."
Shall have and deserve neither. So,
yeah, shall have and deserve
I
neither.
think that was what. I think that's the quote. I think Ham was basically sympathizing with that quote, guys.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, the freedom for security is what he's actually.
It's like you guys are arguing against some fantasy straw man you guys imagined up in your head.
You are advocating for the revocation or the sacrifice of our freedom for the security. You are saying give up your guns so that way less people will die.
No. My entire point is, if your goal is to make for a absolutely safe, the safest possible society, you would ban guns. Because guns are a risk factor for homicide and other violent crimes.
If you make it so that legal law-abiding citizens can't have guns, you know who's going to have guns? Criminals. There was a study done a few weeks ago that was published a few weeks ago, rather, where they basically said, hey, if we made all guns in the United States illegal, the cartels would no longer be importing drugs into America. They would be importing guns because it would be far more financially profitable.
Yep. There's any prohibition. It drives up market, creates black markets all the time. Look at Australia. They did a gun ban.
And they have a lower crime rate than we do. They have a lower murder rate than we do. They have less gun violence than we do. They have fewer mass shootings than we do.
And their numbers also didn't change after they did the 2 buybacks.
It did.
It actually, it did. You're right. It did. It went up.
It went down.
Yeah, and then it went back up.
It went down.
And then it went back up again.
It went down.
It went down and stayed down again. You know when it went down and stayed down? At the exact same time that it went down and stayed down globally. Around 2004, when pretty much everybody started having the internet.
So.
And there's 3 college studies that have said that.
The other thing is, Australia abandoned their gun ban. It's no longer in place.
Well, they never actually banned guns. They did a buyback.
Well,
you could still have guns.
It is not that they have. They don't have the Second Amendment like we do in the United States, but you can now go back and, instead of being unable to buy weapons or in the state.
And there's more. There's more guns. What's all that noise? Holy shit!
Sorry.
There's more guns in Australia today than there was before they did their buyback.
Yep. So why is Australia going the exact opposite of what you're saying is going to solve all their problems?
I'm not even sure if your stats are even correct. I'm betting they're actually in fact wrong.
What stats?
every fucking stat you just spoke.
Okay.
What, that they have more guns now than they did before the buyback? That's true. That their crime rate now is indeed lower than it was back in the 90s? Yeah, that's true. But it is also the same globally. The global rate went down by the exact same percent as their national rate.
Yeah. Those kind of stats are the ones that I have a problem with. Because there's no sources, no nothing. You know, you just drop a fresh turd in the air.
Did you watch the Destiny versus whatever the fuck his name is on Baked Alaska stream last night with James Alsop and the guy from the Red Elephant?
Yeah, I don't watch Baked Alaska. He's an idiot. I don't watch Destiny either. He's an idiot too.
God damn it. Baked Alaska was nothing more than a moderator.
BTK, hang on a second. Everybody's an idiot except for Ham. Everybody in the entire world. I mean,
I kind of figured that when he said that any of the stats that I mentioned that he don't like don't count.
Ham, what is your opinion of Jordan B. Peterson?
Overrated.
Is he an idiot?
His defense of Christianity kind of makes him an idiot.
Okay, Ben Shapiro. Is Ben Shapiro an idiot?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, Steven Crowder.
What
he's an
the
idiot.
fuck?
Who?
Steven Crowder? Oh, you've never heard of him. Never. I'm pretty sure
he's absolutely a fucking moron.
Okay, Donald Trump. Donald Trump
and he's worse than a moron. He's a liar.
Donald Trump.
Okay,
Donald Trump
what has Steven Crowder lied about?
No, hang on a second.
Climate change.
We're going through the list.
No, he hasn't.
We're establishing.
Yeah, he has.
We're trying to figure out.
Hey guys, can we keep this? Can we keep this on the rails? Can we keep this on the rails about guns and not about who Ham thinks is an idiot? I mean, I think we all get the point.
We need to establish who Ham thinks is a bad influence or has bad information, and who he thinks is.
Can we say that for a different stream? Like, I think that's kind of.
Yeah, I'm all for. I agree with the Dark Conservative. We've established our Dark Conservationist, whatever his YouTube name is. I've agreed with Darky over there. That we don't need to go into how retarded the Ham is. We figured it out.
I don't see why the fuck we have to go on this tangent of how Ham thinks are in the world.
What he will.
No, because they can't argue substance. They can't argue substance. They have to like make personal attacks against me.
It's not a personal
attack.
It's not a personal attack.
They were arguing substance for quite a while.
Hang on a second.
Wait a minute. Hold up.
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. It's my stream. Everybody, shut the fuck up. The reason we need to establish what you deem as a credible source and what you deem as a non-credible source, because all of the people I'm citing or naming are people that I look up to, and I'm like, okay, I think those.
You look up to Steven Crowder?
Well, he's 6 foot something, so I think by nature I'd have to.
I would love.
All right, fair enough.
I like the point set when we can't beat his points, and yet he did a personal attack against me before I even thought about doing one against him when he called me a racist.
Well,
yeah, because you were acting racist. Because you're constantly bringing up race.
Facts aren't racist.
You were the first one to bring up race. You were the first to bring up try to make some weird. You know, the darkies are responsible for all the crime.
Yeah,
not
yes
white
or
people.
no? Is the term racist a derogatory remark?
Yes, it is.
So then you attacked me first.
But,
Get over
personal
it.
attacks in general.
I did not say anything else.
And him.
Yeah, we're trying to. No, I'm not trying. This is my.
So back on topic.
I'm not trying to attack him personally, but considering that the statistics that BTK was bringing up, he said were incorrect, and when he cited a.
I did not say they were incorrect. I just find them suspect.
And when he said this is where I heard them from. And you said that guy's an idiot, and all those people are idiots, so they're not. None of those people in that conversation were credible sources, according to you. So we need to establish what you would consider a credible source. Like who?
So someone who's not a career liar like Steven Crowder or Ben Shapiro.
Politico, and you think Politico is a good source?
It's a hell of a lot better than Steven Crowder.
Which is why you think that Donald Trump is worth negative $60 million.
Oh, and Donald Trump said that every school teacher should have a firearm that's trained and proficient in it. I fully agree.
That is the solution that or at least it's the mutually assured
Oh
destruction
my God,
between nations.
that's horrible. Like I'm pro-gun myself, and I'm not even in support of that.
How are you pro-gun when you were just talking about getting rid of guns because they are risk factors?
Because I am acknowledging that in order to make a safer society, we would want to ban guns. But I make the sacrifice of safety for the freedom to own guns.
Okay.
For the record, Humane, he's only arguing on the rhetorical. He's not arguing of what he actually wants done.
Yeah.
I'll show you what I want. I'll show you what I want done.
So
I'll read it off to you. I got the copy of it. I made a series of policy points that I want to do.
Because I was misunderstanding
into the
what
Twitter
you were
chat.
talking about earlier, so I want to elaborate. I'm going to clarify your position on this. So for you personally, you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of your security in order for the freedom to own your firearms. But you're advocating that not be the case for everyone. You don't want everyone to have that same freedom. You want everyone else to give up some of their freedom for your security.
I didn't hear that, Humane.
That's a complete fucking straw man.
Yeah, that's not what he said. You heard him wrong. He said he'd be willing to give up his own guns as well. He said that the necessary guns in society would be like the police forces and stuff like that.
Oh my God. This is my position. This is my fucking position. I've said it 3 times already. I guess I have to say it again. I make the sacrifice of having a little bit more security for the freedom to own firearms.
Okay.
And that's my policy position.
But you are advocating for more restrictions on guns.
I wasn't advocating for anything. I was acknowledging the truth of the situation.
But you're saying that we should get rid of more guns to avoid all these mass shootings and all of the gun deaths in the United States.
Now, if your goal is to make a society safer rather than more free, that's what you would do. Well, that's not what I want to do.
Then I'm confused as to who you're arguing against.
Okay, I'm playing devil's advocate, essentially. All right? God damn. Okay. I don't know how many more times I can explain it.
Okay.
Anywho,
you're playing
here's
devil's advocate.
Let me read off to you. Let me read off to you my policy positions for gun control. My idea for gun control is this: a standardized, universal background check for all gun purchases and transfers. Absolutely no exceptions. A waiting period and limiting the number of guns you can purchase in a given period sounds frustrating, but I see the logic behind it, and I can't disagree with it. Certain classes of guns, such as assault rifles, with or without full auto capability, submachine guns, double-stack auto pistols, etc., will be restricted based on how much damage they can cause in a mass shooting or other violent attacks. I don't believe they should be banned, but they should not be so easy to access. People who own guns... I'm almost done.
When you're done.
People who own guns will be required to safely store their guns so children and nutcases can't easily get to them, and they'll be held harshly responsible for any injury caused by their failure to do so. Devices that increase a weapon's killing capability will be equally regulated. Note, I'd largely deregulate suppressors because do not silence a gun, and they're actually a safety device more than anything else. All right.
Okay.
All those laws already exist.
Yeah,
no, they don't.
Already are in place and exist. So there's two things that
they actually don't.
You say
they actually do.
No, they don't. I can go to my local gun store and buy a Glock 17, a similar gun used in the Virginia Tech massacre.
Okay.
Okay, what's your point? Have you ever heard of a New York reload?
My point is, I want guns like these that have proven themselves to have incredible killing potential to be more difficult to access, so that crazy people and uneducated people can't, grab them and like either shoot themselves or shoot up a classroom.
Have you ever heard of a New York Reload?
Yeah, I don't give a shit.
New York Reload is where you walk around with a backpack full of revolvers, 6 shooters. You got 6 bullets. That's it. You fire 6 shots, you throw the gun away, you pull another one out of your bag. Fire 6 shots, you throw the gun away, you pull another one out of your bag. I can defeat that. I can defeat your capacity argument with a New York Reload.
Yeah, well, it's
yeah, and you'd have to carry about 800 pounds of guns to cause a massacre like the Virginia Tech massacre.
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah, you would. Revolvers, especially the compact revolvers, have a capacity of 5 rounds.
There are quick reloads for revolvers.
So to have the same capacity as a Glock 17, you would need like 5 revolvers.
Okay.
That's about the weight of a Tommy gun, of a fully loaded Tommy gun.
The rate of fire is irrelevant because you can't fire accurately at high speeds.
Okay, I just want to. Yeah. So going back to your
I'm
list,
comparing the weight of the fucking gun.
Okay, I don't want to get.
And actually, you can be accurate with a submachine gun out to ridiculous distances if you.
I was in the military for 8 years. You fire a burst. 4 to 6 rounds. Only 2 of them are going to hit your target.
Oh yeah,
but you got 2 of them on target, didn't you?
Yeah.
And that's if you know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah,
at far out distances, you're gonna maybe get your first round on target.
Yeah.
Because and what's the distance inside of a classroom? What's the furthest distance inside of a classroom? Like maybe 20, 30 feet at most. If you've got a huge fucking classroom.
Okay.
A fucking kid with a submachine gun can just walk in there, fire a few bursts, and he's already killed like half the fucking classroom.
Yeah. And then if half the classroom is armed, as soon as they see him walk in the door brandishing a weapon, somebody else pulls their weapon, and he may only...
You want 6-year-olds to have guns?
No, but the teachers would have weapons, right? That's what Trump was advocating, is that you arm the teachers. Because, hey,
no.
Guess what? What happens when you enter an area where no one else is armed?
I'd be fine with having police officers, armed police officers on site, but armed teachers, no.
Hey, Humane, if you look at the Twitter group chat, I just tossed you a video. Yeah. It's titled, Sheriffs Demonstrate How Magazine Size Makes Very Little Difference.
It does actually slow. It does actually slow the shooter down.
Mm-hmm. What?
It does actually slow the shooter down. I mean, Jared Loeffner was captured while reloading his gun, and he only killed like 6 people.
Okay.
So if I walk in with 2 revolvers, I can kill 12.
BTK, if you're talking about the Humane Mind stream, Ham isn't on that, or I mean group chat. He's not on that group chat.
No, I sent it for Humane.
Yeah, that was for me. Anyway, so I want to get to your points about guns. Would any of those policies apply to law enforcement or military?
I would largely begin demilitarizing our police force, because our police force shouldn't be swatting people just for a fucking unpaid parking ticket.
So
I mean, there was a. You guys remember the
people for unpaid parking tickets? Is that what's going on in reality?
They do shit like that. They use a SWAT. They use their SWAT teams against people for not even all that violent crimes. It's for like maybe burglary or even some non-violent crime.
Well, you could solve that by getting rid of the bail system.
Yeah, reducing rights. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what about, would you demilitarize the military?
what's the point of having a military if it's demilitarized?
So none of your restrictions would apply to the military.
No, I would want our military to be the best in the world.
Okay, so how does this solve the problem when military members like the Fort Hood can go around shooting people with their weapons?
Because the people on military bases are disarmed, and if there's anyone that I would want to have a gun, it's military people.
The security forces on
Okay.
military
You think they
bases
should
are
be
not.
armed?
Security forces and MPs are not disarmed. They're the ones with the actual weapons at the gates. So
I'm a
anything that
combat
can
vet.
happen-
Should I be able to have an assault rifle?
Before we go on to that, anything that can happen to a private citizen can happen to a military member and a law enforcement. This is what I'm trying to get at with this line of questioning is, what differentiates a military member and a police force member from the average citizen, other than they chose that profession? Nothing.
Because they're
It is
trained.
a uniform.
They're trained.
They're trained, and they're trained how to kill people more efficiently.
And also, I assume they're also
if they
trained in
wanted
gun
to-
safety, how to hold a gun safe.
Okay. Like the guy who shot up the Pulse nightclub. He had military training. He was a prior military member. He had all these certifications to get weapons that are not available to the average citizen. And what did he choose to do with that? He chose to unload on that nightclub and kill lots of people, right? What's to stop
Because he's
somebody else
mentally
in the
disturbed.
same situation from doing the exact same thing in the military? Nothing.
Hey, you're the one who's arguing for de-arming the military. That's
was not arguing
that's
for
all
that.
on you.
I was
Hey,
not
Humane,
arguing
can you
for that.
turn
I was
Humane?
wondering-
Can you turn Ham's volume down a little bit? He blows out my eardrums every time he speaks.
Apparently, none of my controls work because this isn't streaming, so
Oh.
I can't do that. He's gonna have to do it himself.
I don't know how to.
Probably stop yelling into the mic, maybe. But my point was, you're still going to have the same situations. Your solution doesn't solve the issue.
Yeah, what? The statistics say so. Guns are a risk factor for homicide.
Okay, so that's your
kitchen knives are a
tagline.
risk factor for homicide. Coffee mugs are a risk factor for homicide. Automobiles are a risk factor for homicide. Arson is a risk factor for homicide.
No. What?
Yes. Fire is a risk factor for homicide. People are burned alive in their apartment buildings.
Yeah, but how often?
It doesn't matter. You're talking about risk factors. Electricity is a risk factor. People are electrocuted to death.
Yeah, and the majority of the people in the United States are not predominantly murdered by automobiles or fires. They're predominantly murdered by guns.
Okay. And if we get rid of guns, then people use different weapons, right? This is what we saw in England.
Actually, no.
Their gun murder rate is low. Their knife murder rate is exceptionally high for some odd reason. Maybe because people switch from guns to knives. Maybe.
So people can. Here's the deal.
So then you have to go on.
The murder rate in countries like the UK are far lower than the murder rate here in the United States.
So this is why I'm saying we don't need gun control. We need criminal control. So anything
and gun control. We need to go about this issue at all angles, not just one.
Well, your angle doesn't solve the issue. It doesn't solve anything.
It helps the issue. It reduces the amount of gun violence.
So
it removes literally the easiest way to kill someone that there ever was.
Which is why the truck of peace is a common meme right now, right? Because guns are the easiest way.
Because that was a freak event, and how many times have they tried to redo that event? They tried multiple times. They've got nowhere near
3 incidents of this.
Similar death toll.
The truck of peace is the semi-truck, but there was the truck rented from Home Depot that killed several people, and the guy got out wielding a kitchen knife, right? A butcher knife. And what stopped him eventually? Oh yeah, it was a good guy with a gun, right? But guns are always bad and a risk factor for homicide, so we need to get rid of them.
We need to better regulate them. So, how is it that a mentally disturbed individual is able to get himself an AR-15?
Regulating
if our guns are not, if our gun.
I want to know how he got the guy on the 14th got himself a grenade, because that was in the list of weaponry he had. I want to know how that.
What kind of grenade?
I don't know. It doesn't say. It just says grenade. So
yeah, you can make a grenade with parts you can buy at Home Depot.
It just everything I've seen just says the police said he had a grenade. And I'm like, what, was it a smoke grenade? If it was a smoke grenade, well, then that's incorrect to say that it's a grenade. It's technically correct, but it's misleading to call it a grenade. Because a grenade, I'm thinking, okay, this is an explosive device, and it's a good thing he didn't set off the explosive device, but how did he get that explosive device? And it's same thing with the Las Vegas shooter. Apparently he had C4 and a bunch of explosives in his trunk, or in his vehicle.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he have started with that? Because, in my mind, if you are trying to kill as many people as possible, you set off the explosion and then open fire on the fleeing crowd. You'd get a much bigger body count. And yet, every single one, the guy at the Aurora, right? The guy who shot up the theater, also had explosives in his vehicle. Why do they start with the guns when explosives are much more effective at killing people, provided they can go off? I mean, this is why most terrorist attacks occur with explosives.
None of us are in the minds of a fucking mass shooter. All right.
But these explosives have more damaging potential than a firearm.
Yeah, a potential, not actual effective. I mean, to kill a huge number of people with an explosive, one, you need a massive amount of explosive. And two, you need a concentration of people. Why do you think the Oklahoma City bombing was so devastating? Because you had a truck full of explosives parked next to a massive building.
Yes. And those
they also had
a school worth of people. All they need is one grenade, one pipe bomb. They throw it in that classroom. They're going to have a bigger casualty than an entire clip worth of ammunition.
I can spend 10 minutes in my kitchen and go to the mall on Black Friday and kill 100 people with a backpack. Easy.
Hey, guys, I wanna turn to talk to Ham. Ham, you go talking about universal background checks, including expand that to mental health, correct?
Absolutely.
Do you think that people who are mentally unstable or have a mental illness of some type should be barred from owning a gun of any kind?
Absolutely. If you're so mentally unstable that you can't manage your own finances, you should not be allowed to own a gun.
Okay. Here's an article that I have. It's from mentalhealth.gov saying, myth, people with mental health problems are violent and unpredictable. Fact, the vast majority of people with mental health problems are no more likely to be violent than anyone else. Most people with mental illness are not violent, and only 3 to 5% of violent acts can be attributed to individuals living with a serious mental illness. In fact, people with severe mental illnesses are over 10 times more likely to be victims of violent crime than the general population. You probably know someone with the mental health problem and don't even realize it, because many people with mental health problems are highly active and productive members of our communities. So,
yeah, I'm aware of that statistic, but every single mass shooter that we've had in recent memory was mentally ill. Every single one.
Right.
And most of them had a history of being mentally ill.
They had a history of violence and a history of behavior that would preclude them. But you want to include people who have never shown any signs of violence. You want to include
I don't know what you're doing in the background, but you're making a shit ton of noise.
Yeah, he's probably
all right, sorry. Yeah. But this is.
Here's my question. If on the mental health, okay, if 4.87 people out of 100,000 mental patients commit a violent act with a firearm, does that mean that the other 99,995 point whatever should lose their rights and their freedoms to have firearms?
The reason why I'm against the reason why I'm against mentally ill people obtaining firearms is because they're mentally ill. They're not going to be able to be responsible with a firearm.
I think before you go on, you need to express what you mean by mentally ill.
Everybody diagnosed
Because
with mental illness
98%,
is the same. Is that
yeah,
what you're saying?
98% of our veterans are diagnosed with a mental illness.
Okay.
And
the mentalhealth.gov article that I just read, what was not specifying what mental, it just said mental illnesses in general. And the reason why I would say that I'm against a mental health check, or at least barring people with mental illnesses from at all owning a gun, is that it seems pretty unfair. Like you're barring an entire group for being you're barring an entire group, like hundreds of thousands of people, maybe even millions of people, from owning a gun at all because of a few of them, a very, very minute amount of them, end up violent.
Yeah.
I think the problem Dark is having with your idea is it's too general. It's too broad.
Okay, any mental illness that impairs your ability to reason to such an extent that you don't know right from wrong, or you don't know the consequences. You don't understand the consequences of your actions.
You mean
so like schizophrenia, borderline personality disorder,
stuff like that.
That kind of stuff. Not stuff like mild PTSD or mild autism.
No, I'm not talking about those kinds of mental illnesses. I'm talking about this kid literally has no idea that it's wrong to dissect a cat alive. Those kind of mental illnesses.
Is there a video of that?
Yeah, sure. I got my porn folder.
That would be
can
a
you hear me?
demonstration of violent behavior, and usually someone like that goes to therapy because that's signs of some kind of psychosis.
The most recent shooter, it had so many warning signs that the FBI got involved, and he was still allowed to go on to murder 17 children.
They knew about it. They didn't do shit about it. It was reported to them in several different ways. All the warning signs were there. All the flags. He was on their radar, and they did jack shit about it.
And he was still allowed to buy a gun.
I think Dark had something he wanted to say.
Not really, but I guess it would make more of a point for you, Ham, if you were to specify, which mental illnesses. So just blanketly saying all people of all mental illnesses shouldn't have a firearm.
I thought it'd be obvious. I guess not.
Well, with you, when you say things, you kind of take them to the either hyperbolic area. So we're not sure if you're being hyperbolic or if you're being serious. Sometimes you're hyperbolic, and sometimes you're like, oh no, this is definitely the way the things are. And then when you're called out on it, then you act as if that's not what you said in the first place. So.
Also, this is an area where single-payer healthcare can help mitigate the issue. The mental health care in America, I'm sure all of you are aware, it's an absolute disaster.
Yeah, so just throw other people's money at it. Because it's not your money, it's other people's money, so that'll fix the problem, and as long as it doesn't...
Yeah, it would actually, because we're not throwing any money at it at all.
Yeah, so we're just going to throw other people's money at it. And that fixes the problem. Rather than, you think this is a problem, so maybe you should do something.
It's a stepping stone to fixing the issue.
Okay, but the issue... So your solution to it is to have other people fix it for you or fix it for us. That's your solution, because I mean that seems to be your solution.
But my solution is to have the demonstrated best healthcare system in the world to fix it. So yes.
I firmly believe that healthcare is the responsibility of the individual unless they are underage, over retirement, or mentally enabled to do it themselves.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about your libertarian principles.
I'm not a libertarian, but
that is a libertarian principle.
No, it's common sense.
No, it's libertarian and cap nonsense.
No, it's common sense.
Single parent.
I don't believe in socialism. It's not my responsibility to make sure that other people live, unless they are unable to because they are underage, mentally incompetent, or over a certain age.
So you do care about other people's health care as long as they meet this criteria.
Well, that's because
if they're underage, if they can't do it, if they can't do it themselves. What 3 categories can't do it themselves? People that are mentally and physically unable to, the elderly, who may be mentally or physically unable to, and
what about people
children.
too sick to work? What about people too sick to work? Like if you have cancer, or if you have a broken leg.
They should have invested in a privatized health insurance to cover that. And broken leg, that's covered under workman's comp for like 3 months. So
the elderly,
yeah.
whenever they
So you're for having health care for people who can't get it, except when you arbitrarily decide they don't deserve it.
No, the people who could never get it in the first place. Like if somebody is mentally handicapped to the point where they are never able to be independent, well then, yes, that's the people you care for. Children who have never had a chance to
Did you know that the United States of America spends the most on healthcare? Spends more than any other modern nation. On healthcare.
We've covered this.
What's your point?
Yeah. And we have the worst results.
Yeah, because we shouldn't. The country, the government, shouldn't be spending anywhere near what they do on healthcare. It's not the government's responsibility.
So I'm comparing the nations where all healthcare is covered by the government, and your point is no. Let's make the problem worse.
We can do that. No, it wouldn't make the problem worse. We can do that. We can look at Canada. Do you know the wait time on a surgery in Canada? I have Canadian friends that have came to America to have life-saving surgeries because they would have died before they could have gotten it in Canada.
And there's 45,000 people dying every year in the United States due to the lack of health care.
Okay, that's 45,000. 75,000.
75. So
yeah, and I dismiss your statistics.
More people in the United States die of medical malpractice than they do of not being able to have health care. So what's your point?
So, but I mean,
225,000 a year
Twitter feed, it was
die from medical
45,000.
malpractice.
Today it's 75,000. So we've.
My point is the number of people dying due to the lack of health care in other modern nations is 0.
It's not 0, you fucking moron.
The lack of
it is 0.
Lack of healthcare.
Hey,
you keep throwing that
keep the
term
personal attacks down.
Sorry, I take that back. You're not a moron.
Lack of healthcare is Ethiopia. Lack of healthcare is Zimbabwe. Lack of healthcare is one of these third world countries where they don't actually have access to medical facilities whatsoever.
I'm comparing the United States of America to other modern nations.
Health fucking insurance every fucking time. You keep saying healthcare and health insurance as if they are the same thing, and they're fucking not.
You mean you can't handle what I have facts?
No, it's because you keep saying health insurance is the same as healthcare. It's not. Healthcare is the fucking hospital. Health insurance is a completely different industry that inflates the costs of the hospital. Because if you're
it's the health insurance companies that inflate the cost.
Health insurance companies inflate the cost of everything they are involved in. Insurance companies in general. Okay.
Let's get rid of the insurance companies and institute a single payer system.
3 industries where costs have consistently gone up decade over decade. Houses, vehicles, and healthcare. 3 big industries where insurance is a dominant factor. Houses, medical, cars.
Hey, Humane, I just put a link in the Twitter group thing.
Yeah.
You can play this one on your stream. I know the guy that made it.
Yeah. If we had computer insurance, the cost of computers would be skyrocketing at a similar rate.
Hey, here you go again, going on completely unrelated tangents.
I'm talking about health insurance. Insurance, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, you're going on about computers.
I'm saying
you can't stay on topic.
If we had the
and make any fucking sense.
Shut the fuck up for a second here. If we had insurance the same way we do for computers that we have for healthcare, the cost of computers would be hundreds of thousands of dollars for the same shitty computer that costs $500 right now. Okay? That's what happens when you introduce an insurance system into our healthcare system. The costs go up because people aren't paying the cost. The insurance companies are paying the cost.
And
to prove that.
Who the fuck is paying the insurance companies?
To prove that point beyond any refutation, look at the rates of insurance costs before and after Obamacare.
No, look at
after
what people are
it
paying
became
for
mandatory.
surgeries when they have insurance, when they don't have to actually see the price. All they see is their insurance getting, it's my insurance is covering it. I don't have to care if it's, this $10,000 surgery, it's billed as $100,000 because it's not my money, it's the insurance company's money. Well, what that means is that's charging all of these insurance companies' customers. Now their rates are going up and they're getting paid, they have to pay more and more. It's distributing the cost of that person's surgery. If that person didn't have insurance and they had to foot the bill for the surgery themselves, they would say, look at that $100,000 bill and be like, no. Somebody else just had the same surgery. It cost them $10,000. I'm getting the $10,000 price. But instead, it cost them $100,000 and then it gets distributed over 100,000 different people where they're only paying $1 extra each. That's what's going on right now. That's why costs are inflating astronomically. Out of sight,
Wait, so are you
for whenever you distribute that's what happens.
Are you for privatized health insurance going away completely?
Yes.
Who, me? Absolutely.
No, not you, Humane.
Health savings plans. Health savings plans have been shown, like throughout the board, decrease the overall cost. You pay into your own plan, so you're not relying on everybody else to pay into it. It covers your costs. It's better for everybody involved. This is why Whole Foods, the CEO of Whole Foods, was talking majorly about this. So he introduced a health savings plan into his company and said, okay, that's the only thing we're going to allow. People in the union or whatever it was fought back against it, and he gave them the ability to go off and get their own insurance that wasn't a health savings plan. Everybody who left the health savings plan came back to the health savings plan. Whole Foods right now, all of them have health savings plans. It drastically reduced the cost for the company, the cost for the employees, and the employees get better health care than they had under insurance. That's what happened.
And you know what would be even cheaper? A single payer system.
No, it's not. It makes it worse. It makes
it cheaper. It's more effective.
All it does is mask the cost.
I've said this statistic before. The Medicare for All bill, HR 676, would have been projected to cost $32 trillion in 10 years. Our current healthcare system is projected to cost $49 trillion in 10 years.
I really want to hear what Dark has to say about this.
Yeah.
No, I did not have. I was just listening.
Oh, okay. It sounded like you started to say something. So.
But
I
your cost is to make something free, as in, as long as I don't see the cost, I can do whatever I want. That's what happens. The reason our system is so broken right now is that we took the personal responsibility out of it. Health savings plan introduced personal responsibility back in its situation.
Well, what part of personal responsibility is lost? You're federally mandated to have health insurance. You have more personal responsibility than ever before.
You're not federally mandated to have it anymore. That got taken out with the tax bill.
Yeah. And I disagree with that personal mandate. It should be your personal responsibility to take care of yourself if you are able. If you're not able, then it's the people who brought you into this world that are responsible for you.
And my point is, if we can have a healthcare system that's cheaper and more effective and would benefit the economy overall, we should do it.
you keep saying that it's cheaper and more effective. You have said that repeatedly. We've had a it seems like every stream that you're on, you talk about your great healthcare program and how amazing it is and how America's just throwing money down the tubes. So the same America that is full of greedy capitalists who will do anything to save a penny is wasting money on healthcare when there's a better, more proven system out there that we could switch to and save ourselves trillions of dollars, and we just opt not to because, wait, aren't we supposed to be greedy? We're supposed to want all the money to ourselves?
Yeah, the health insurance companies, the pharmaceutical industry, they're greedy motherfuckers.
That doesn't compute. If we're wasting trillions of dollars, we're spending trillions of dollars on things that we don't need. That is an inefficiency in the system. That is the opposite of greed.
Because that inefficiency pays the bills for health insurance companies, for pharmaceutical companies, for the lobbyists.
Hey, Humane, check your live stream. It's not showing the Hangouts. It's just showing the chat. It's a blank screen.
Oh. What the heck? Huh. Sorry about that. Let me... Why are you being goofy, OBS? Well, it's showing now, right? Yeah.
One of the guys in a lot of groups that I'm in said it in the chat, so I checked it. And yeah, it was just a black screen.
I think I have too many windows open, and so OBS is... Yeah, I need to shut some of these out, but I need these windows open for business.
Maybe if we had a socialized streaming software, this wouldn't happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, your solution for healthcare is basically to socialize it, and if that solution works for healthcare, it should work for every other system. That's...
No, well...
yeah,
because
I don't think socializing anything...
The health insurance industry is an area where the profit motive fails. Because the profit motive...
Insurance is an industry where profit motive fails, because their entire business model is based off of not providing their service. Accepting money without providing a service. That, in my mind, that's fraud. I'd get rid of all insurance companies.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I'd institute a single-payer system.
Insurance is gambling without getting paid out. It's like, at least, casinos are more ethical than insurance industries.
I agree.
Hey, weird. So, yeah, because insurance masked as, oh, hey, this is a good thing to do, and this is, but essentially, you're gambling with the insurance company, but it's legalized gambling that everybody accepts as, oh, that's an acceptable way of throwing your money. Like, oh, I'm betting that I'm gonna get injured before you, or before I pay more than I get paid, right? It's like I'm betting that I'm only gonna pay you like $50,000, and then when I get injured, it's gonna cost $100,000, so I'm gonna make my money back. That's what people are betting on insurance. And it's
I don't personally have a problem with health insurance. It shouldn't be mandated.
Well, that's the other reason. So insurance, the reason our healthcare costs are going up as well, is the insurance is going to need to pay out in order to make or whatever. They're like, people wouldn't buy insurance if insurance paid out $300 and people paid in $50,000.
Hang on. Let me finish my thought here. It shouldn't be mandated, and it should only cover the big ticket items. Like it shouldn't be, oh, I've been paying in, $50 a week for the last 10 years. Now I need this $100,000 surgery that actually only costs $10,000. It should be, I've been paying in $50 a week for the last 10 years. My balance paid in is this. My surgery's going to cost $10,000. So my balance due to make up the difference is this. So my rates go up by this amount. So that, so that my individual rates go up by this amount until my balance is back down to zero. And then it goes back down to my normal $50 a week rate.
Yeah. So
or $50, whatever.
Yeah, currently what people have is they switch to health savings plans for most of their regular healthcare needs, and their catastrophic things like cancer, AIDS, like terminal illnesses and things along those lines. They get catastrophic insurance, which is much cheaper, and it only pays out and covers those extreme situations, which they hope they never have to deal with. But in the meantime,
I'm 100%
like their
for that.
toothaches, their broken legs, their doctor's appointments, their pap smears, and all that, that's all covered by the health savings plans. It's money they put into it, and then they spend it as they...
Is there a chance that some will be left out in that system?
Is what?
Is there a chance that some will be not able to get health care that they need in that system of yours, Humane?
No.
Yeah, that is a good question, Humane. What if they are unable to work, not old enough to work, too old to work, or unable to work due to mental or physical issues?
Well, this is what we talked about earlier, right? So if you're too young, so you can't work on your own, you've never been independent, you can't get your own stuff, well, then it's your parents' responsibility to make sure that they cover your healthcare costs. They pay into your health savings plan, and they pay if you need catastrophic insurance or whatever. If they feel that that's necessary,
okay, so
they're the one's going to cover that. If
what if you don't have parents? What if you have parents that hit your guts and just rather you die?
Hey, I wasn't finished with my point. But if you are someone who has worked and has been independent, and you didn't cover yourself for a catastrophic situation, or for you didn't take care of your health savings plan, and then you lose your job, or you get sick, or you can't support yourself anymore, how is that anybody else's problem where they have to now take care of you because you failed to do what you were supposed to do when you had the opportunity?
It's society at large's problem.
No, it is
we still have to deal with the cost of keeping you alive.
Why?
We still have to deal with the loss of productivity of people taking care of you.
Hang on a second.
And you not working.
If I made $10,000 while working, and I chose to buy a new car and a big screen TV with that $10,000, and then I get sick and injured and I lose my job and I can't pay my bills, it is therefore society's responsibility to now cover my medical expenses because I chose to buy a car and a TV.
Well, I guess it all depends on what kind of society you want. Do you want a society with a higher standard of living or a lower standard of living?
I want a society that holds people responsible for themselves.
Do you want a society with a high standard of living or a lower standard of living?
I want a society where people are responsible for themselves and not responsible
holds
for
people responsible for themselves.
You are not. I am not responsible for anybody else but myself.
Yeah, you still didn't answer my question.
Okay, I'll answer your question.
I want humane and humane only. Do you want a high standard of living or a low standard of living?
That's a false dichotomy.
Oh no, it's not.
It is either high or low.
It is
either high or low.
You'll get a higher standard of living with Humane's ideology. You know why? Because the people that are dragging us down and reducing our standard of living and making our taxes higher because we have to support them will die. And then once they're all gone, guess what? Everything's better.
People who would have followed suit are like, oh shit, we don't want to end up like them, and they'll get their act together, or they'll get out. They'll go to one of those countries that doesn't.
So explain to me this. Why does every modern nation that has a high standard of living, a high income, have single payer health care and we don't?
Yeah, so everybody.
Why do we have the worst?
All right.
Why do we have the worst health care in the modern world, especially compared to 10 other high-income nations?
You keep saying that, although the statistics don't back you up, and all the evidence is it's either inconclusive.
I provided these statistics on multiple times, and you just ignored them.
No, I provided counter statistics. I've provided counter
examples. What counter statistics? Rumors about wait lines?
People leaving Canada to come to the United States for surgery.
Rumors about people leaving Canada.
Rumors. I have personal friends that live in Canada that have came to the United States for surgery because they would have died in Canada. Personal friends.
I sent you a link to an article that said Canada, the number of people dying in Canada over a 10-year period was increasing because of the wait times in Canada. So that total I figured out it was something like 22,000 per year are dying in Canada's system because they can't get the health care because they're waiting on health care. they're waiting on healthcare regardless of their income, regardless of what they've done in their personal life. So they come to the United States and they pay for the healthcare that they needed that they couldn't get on your wait system. It's personal responsibility. They did whatever they needed to do to get their healthcare. Your system doesn't provide people an option to, if they absolutely need healthcare, they can't. There's no way to get it. You just have to bribe somebody or pay somebody to get your place in line moved ahead. That's the system that you're advocating for. That's what happens under socialism. That's what socialists did. There's these huge wait lines, and what people did is they bribed the guards so that way they could get ahead of the line, because otherwise they would starve to death. That's the system you're advocating, where the only way to get ahead is to find some way to get further on in the line.
So,
if you want to call my personal friends rumors, I can bring you.
I provide you statistics comparing United States to 10 other modern nations, and your only counter argument is wait times of one nation.
Of one nation, because the rest of them, they are not keeping track of this stuff. It's very difficult to find those statistics because they don't want to keep track of that.
Yeah, I see it as a lie. That's a fucking lie.
So,
what are the two countries that you brought it that you
I mentioned
gave
Canada
HUMANE?
and the United States.
Germany, France, Iceland, Norway.
That's way more than two.
Yeah.
I have friends in Germany. I have friends in Canada. I can get them on the stream, most likely, and they can tell you straight to your face.
I don't give a fuck about anecdotal evidence. All right.
Oh, so people that are there and know the system better than your Google search are irrelevant.
Yes, your anecdotal evidence is irrelevant.
It's not anecdotal. There are statistics behind this of people leaving those other countries where they can get healthcare for free, and they opt not to because they'd rather not die and they'd rather pay for their healthcare in the United States. Because that is an option that you are denying people.
Yeah, and America has 45,000 people dying due to lack of healthcare every fucking year. So it seems to me that...
And there's 22,000 dying from lack of healthcare in Canada, and they have far less people. Yeah. So if you want to compare those numbers directly, America's doing better than Canada there, buddy.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was...
Yeah. I think you're just fucking lying about the statistics in the wait times.
I sent you those statistics in the chat. The Canada. I sent you those statistics. Now it might have been okay because Canada has like the study I sent you. Canada had a population of 30 million at the time.
I'm pulling up factcheck.org.
Yeah, I sent you that. It might have been 2,000 as opposed to 22,000 now that I'm thinking about it because Canada has 30,000. It worked out so that way the difference was about 1,000 between the two. If you compare to like population ratios. If you divided the population of the United States by 10, so that way the United States has a population of about 32,000 or 32
Who the fuck is whistling?
And the Canada has about.
No, that's
30
probably
million.
my window.
Those statistics would match up, which means that United States has, at that ratios where they can actually compare them together, U.S. would have been 4,500 and Canada would have been like it was 2,300 or something along those lines. Still comparable, and it doesn't show that your system is like, oh, it's so much better. And you're like, yeah, but people are dying for different reasons. They're still dying under your system. There's also, Canada doesn't have the health epidemic of obesity that the United States have with the body positivity and all of that. U.S. is morbidly obese.
I'm looking it up here. According to factcheck.org, the Canadian wait time is slightly worse than the United States.
No, not slightly.
Guess what? Canada and the United States are like 5 and 6.
I sent you the link. It was from a Harvard research paper. So, I don't know. So you can cite Harvard when it benefits you.
This factcheck.org article cites the same...
Factcheck.org is way more professional than Harvard. It's a legitimate source. It's so much better.
I sincerely doubt you've ever looked at Harvard.
Factcheck.org is right up there with Politico as far as reliable and trustworthy sources. It's a good one. Can't go wrong with that. I mean, next are you gonna cite Snopes or yeah? Hey, look. What else? What other sources you got? You know, CNN is your main source. CNN said this.
Yeah, you literally said you look up the Steven Crowder and Ben Shapiro.
You're gonna cite the ADL.
I mean, two of the biggest fucking liars in new media.
Yes, they're liars when they quote actual statistics and link to the source of those statistics that say exactly what they said.
Yeah, that's where you're wrong. They don't quote correct statistics. They misinterpret statistics made by other articles that misinterpret statistics.
No.
And there's like several layers deep before someone actually cites the actual statistics.
No, because I've fact checked them. I've gone to their sources and their sources.
Yeah, you don't fact check them. You don't. I know you don't.
I don't.
If you think Steven Crowder is telling the truth, then you're either a liar yourself,
because, I mean,
or you don't fact check them at all whatsoever.
So the only people I fact check is Owen McDonald when he sent me sources that said one thing in the article, and I went to the actual study and I read the conclusion and the abstract of that study and looked at all the relevant information in the actual study. Oh, that's the only time I do my fact checking, is when I'm like, hey, wait a minute, this article said the exact opposite of the conclusion and the summary of this article. I pointed that out on Twitter, but no, he's the only time I do fucking fact checking. I don't fact check anything else ever because I just blindly accept what everybody tells me, right? Okay, I'm fucking done here.
I'm reading this. A study by the Commonwealth Fund, a nonpartisan research foundation that promotes improved healthcare access and quality, showed that 57% of adults in Canada who needed a specialist say they waited more than 4 weeks for an appointment, versus only 23% who said so in the U.S. For emergency physician visits, 23% of Canadians and 30% of Americans said they could get in to see the doctor the same day. But 23% of Americans and 36% of Canadians waited more than 6 days. So there are differences between the American system and the Canadian system. But overall, in other modern nations,
the people who
the
leave
single
that
payer
system are fucking retarded. That's what you're saying.
What?
The people who ever leave that system are fucking retarded because, I mean, obviously, it's superior in every way. That the people who are leaving it...
Here's the deal about the American healthcare system. If you're rich, you got the best system in the world.
Wait a minute. What the fuck? What are you talking about, the best system in the world? No, we are inferior to Canada and to all of these other countries. You just fucking said that. You can't go back on it now by saying if you're rich.
I never said anything else. If you're rich,
so
you have the best system on the planet.
And you want them solved, fucking get rich.
Yeah.
Hey.
But here's the deal.
Better than waiting.
For poor people, for the lower class and the middle class, we have the worst healthcare system on the planet.
Again, the people who choose to buy their big screen TVs and their newer car rather than saving their money and spending it responsibly.
Oh, so you're saying that being poor is a moral failing?
Yes. Poor is a mindset.
Yeah.
Poor is a mindset, not a state of being.
No, it is a state of being.
No,
all right?
It is a mindset.
There is a limit.
Mindset,
there is a limit to how much money you can make at a fucking Walmart. All right?
Then stop.
There's a limit that you can make in a factory.
Stop working in a factory. Get better. Get a better paying job. Constantly improve yourself.
I'll just find a better paying job.
Yes.
My problem's just been solved.
Paying job. That's what you're supposed to do.
I'll go to the better paying job tree and I'll just pick a better paying job food and I'll take a bite out of it.
McDonald's is not a life sentence. Factory work is not a life sentence. If you are still making minimum wage and you've been on that job for more than a year, you are doing that job wrong because you are not improving. You are maintaining the status quo.
Or we are outsourcing all the good-paying jobs overseas with our free trade deals.
I agree. We should close our borders. I 100% agree.
You know what, BTK? When we finally agree on something, I believe in closed borders.
Wow. Okay. Being poor is a mindset. It is a temporary setback.
No, it's a state of being.
No, it's a mindset.
It's a state of being.
It's a mindset.
It's. I can see the argument for both.
No.
If
you consider yourself, oh, I'm going to be poor for the rest of my life, then you will stay poor. Whether you can,
if you have a handful of people who hold more than half the world's wealth, you're going to have poor people.
What? No.
I can also see Humane's point that you can pick yourself up and make yourself a better life.
As someone who has done it.
Can you do that where you currently are located? Probably not. Now, can you move to another part of the country and make a new life for yourself?
Exactly what you're supposed to do.
That's what I did 2 years ago when I moved up here to Illinois from Houston. You know, Houston, it's an oil town. It's all about the oil. If the oil market is shit, you're out of a fucking job, which is why I moved from Houston to where I live now, and I work at a fucking factory. I make $16 an hour. I make a pretty fucking good living for someone who's only 22 years old with no college education. I'm doing pretty fucking good right now.
I've made $200 since I've been on this call.
Yeah. Okay. So you're doing pretty good for yourself, being that young. Now, what are you doing for the future? Is that factory work? That's where you're going to end your days? You're going to be making $16 an hour for the rest of your life? What do you?
Or are you applying for college aid and going to college too?
There are veterans that have been at my factory for 30+ years.
Yeah, they're doing
like combat veterans, military veterans, or veterans of the employ. Because I can tell you, military veterans.
Either way.
I was gonna say, because I can tell you, military veterans, if they get a job and they like it, they're gonna stay. They're used to the suck. They don't give a shit. We don't give a shit because I am one.
I would say either way, they're doing it wrong unless they're getting consistent pay raises. Because if they're still making the same wage they made when they started, they're doing it wrong.
I just got a 25-cent raise.
Okay, then you're doing it right, or at least from what you're saying.
You know, and I'm applying for a new position, which is by far the most well-paid direct labor position in the factory.
You're supposed to continually improve your economic situation. You don't rest at the status quo, and you will have setbacks. You will be out of a job. You will have times where you don't have employment. Now, what do you do to mitigate that? Alternative streams of revenue. You want to diversify your portfolio. You want to make sure that you have multiple streams of income, so that way, if you get injured on the job, you don't lose all of your income.
Y'all have a good night now.
Yeah.
See ya.
Good night,
I'm gonna have to go. I'll have to go here in a minute because I'm just flat out out of time. I just want to say this. I 100% believe in the freedom to own guns, so long as you're honest that you're going to have a fundamentally less safe society. That's just going to happen. But I like owning guns. I like shooting guns.
Okay.
My favorite gun by far is my 1887 Winchester lever-action shotgun. It's a fun gun to shoot.
Okay, I got a question for you before you go. I was hospitalized in a military fucking psych ward for 2 weeks. I can't legally own guns for another 3 years. Do you think I should ever be able to legally own guns? All I was in there was for PTSD shit.
That's up to.
I'm not on any medications for like antidepressants or antipsychotics or any of that other shit. In 3 years, I can legally own guns again. Right now, I can't.
If a psychiatrist or a psychologist says that you're okay to own a gun,
I believe in a check and balances system where if you've been diagnosed with something, or not diagnosed with something, hospitalized for something, or have an event in your life that makes it so that you cannot legally own guns, and it's not due to a violent crime, because I want to remove that one off the top. Like say my specific situation, I was hospitalized in a loony bin for 2 weeks. And then a month later, I was back in there again for another 2 weeks. And I haven't been in there again in 3 years, and in 3 more years, I can legally own guns again. Do you think that in 3 years, when I can legally own guns again, I should have to be evaluated by a medical, or rather mental health professional, to ensure my mental capacity on a mental health level, that if I do obtain a firearm, I won't go out and do shoot up a school or something? Because I can agree with that. I can agree with that 100%.
I think everyone should go through some kind of psych evaluation before they're allowed to own firearms, and if they pass, and they should own should be allowed to purchase a firearm.
Okay. Do you think major life events such as a divorce, the death of a child, violent murder of somebody in your family, etc., if you're a registered legal gun owner, after a major life experience like that could potentially that you should have to go in and get reevaluated? Right. Like, say you come home and your daughter's been raped by 6 guys, and your wife's fucking hanging from the fucking ceiling fan. Should you be able to still have your firearms without being mentally evaluated to make sure that didn't make you snap?
Perhaps.
Because I mean, I can agree with that kind of stuff too. Evaluations, case by case basis. If something happens in your life after you've passed the test, then a reevaluation.
I'm not for some broad, sweeping, unfair, cold, regulations that affect you, even if it doesn't really apply to you. No, I'm all about, setting up a system that does go by case, that does take into account the nuances of the situation.
Yeah, and I did have one other question before you go. You said something earlier about passing regulations to limit or remove like magazine capacity, weapons that can have high magazines and stuff like that. Okay. You also said that military, they're fully trained in everything to responsibly handle it. And I know you just heard beeping. I'm sorry. I'm a combat vet. In 3 years, I can have firearms again. I'm not going to go out and fucking shoot people. But since I'm a combat vet, would you say that those restrictions should or should not apply to me, because I have all the training required to be able to handle, high capacity stuff, assuming that I were to properly lock it up, and it wouldn't be stolen and fall into the wrong hands.
Here's the things about high capacity magazines and other and such devices. I believe that if you pass all the checks, you go through all the licensing, and everything checks okay, I believe everyone should be allowed to access those things.
Yeah, the main reason why I was asking is because back in the 80s, there was a group of FBI agents that were there was like 6 FBI agents. 3 of them were killed and 2 of them were seriously injured. And the one that had the most to say about it, they asked him, because they were saved by a civilian. They asked them what could have prevented this, and he said, if we had more ammunition and a higher capacity, we would still be alive. They asked him, well, how much is the proper amount of ammunition for you to carry? And he said, as much as you can carry.
Okay, so I'm gonna let Ham respond to that, and then I'm gonna conclude and wrap this up so we can.
I would hope that the FBI agents were trained in the handle for arms, but I do not want a paramilitary organization just walking around the streets. I don't want to end up like France with troops that's patrolling the streets. No. There are better ways to reduce crime than to have you know, our police force just being able to take on a small country and win.
Well, no. The question was to the FBI agent that he answered was two-part. Because one was how much, because this was back in the 80s. Their service pistol was a 6-shooter. Not like a revolver, but it had 6 shots.
Oh, like a Colt 1911.
Yeah, and the guy, the civilian that rolled up and saved them, had like fucking 20 fucking, or he had like 2 20-round clips, in his fucking rifle in his truck. I mean, and he saved them. And the guy that they were going after, the bad guy that they were going after, had like 6 fucking pistols and 2 shotguns, and you know. But the second part of the question was they were asking, well, what about the civilian side? And he said they should carry as much ammunition as they can too.
Well, once again, I'll reiterate: if they pass all the licensing and all the checks, they should be allowed to have access. I also believe in I do believe in concealed weapons as long as you pass all the checks.
I believe in open carry. I think if
yeah.
you pass all the tests, if you want to walk around with an assault rifle, go for it.
Yeah, provided it's in a carry position and not like brandishing it like.
Yeah, don't be pointing it at people. You know,
I mean,
carry it.
I'm not so crazy about open carrying, assault rifles.
Why?
Because that is just to that will freak people out. That will make people panic.
Not if it's commonplace.
Yeah, if it becomes the norm again. All right, so I'm gonna put you on mute, and I'm gonna read through the chat real. Well, maybe I won't put you on mute.
Anywho, I'm gonna head out. See y'all later.
So,
Bye-bye.
Ivan Jetta says a nuclear weapon in the hands of private people would be a very bad idea. Depends on who the private people are. I would say if they're Kim Jong-un, which compared to the United States, Kim Jong-un is basically a private citizen. If you think of each country as an individual person, right? If the United States was a person, because the reason I'm saying treat them as individual people, because there is no governmental organization that is above these entities, right? The states. There's no controlling force above the United States. Like the UN is a group that they're a part of and they can ignore because UN is powerless, is toothless. There is no centralized government. What that means is that the North Korea is the same association to the United States as you would be to a private citizen owning a nuclear weapon. And yes, that's scary when that person owning the nuclear weapon is Kim Jong-un and who knows if they're crazy or who knows if they're just, trying to, do a penis contest. I don't know. I don't know if they're just trying to get attention or if he's, if it's who's got the bigger peen and he backed out. I don't know. But that's scary when someone like that has it like that. Although the President of the United States right now has access to the nuclear codes.
Not independently.
He's a private citizen, right? So the fact that anybody has it, in my mind, makes that mutually assured destruction. You're relying on the ruler of your particular country to use it responsibly, which I think that's a little too much faith in humanity. Because as Ham rightly pointed out, there are some people who just want to watch the world burn. And if we accidentally elect a Hitler or something like that who has those nuclear codes and is like, you know what, I'm going to legitimize bombing the hell out of Russia, and then we start World War III and everybody ends up dying. How is that any different from a situation where a private citizen has a nuke? It can still happen. It's just out of sight, out of mind right now.
The president doesn't have the authority to just willy-nilly launch a nuke.
Yes and no. I think technically it would have to be a war authorized by Congress. Although presidents have done things in the past without congressional authority.
Oh, yeah, you have a set amount of time that you can invade a country before you even have to ask Congress's permission.
And he doesn't
But
need to ask Congress's permission to launch the nuclear weapon. So
right, but he doesn't have direct access to the nuclear weapon. He has the
codes,
the
and
ability to
send those
call it
codes.
in.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. He's not the key turner. He's not the one that has the final say.
He's not the one that has a final say, but who would stop him? If you got a direct order from the President of the United States to launch this nuke at this location, like...
Well, we were both military veterans, or both are military veterans.
I wasn't involved in a nuclear site, so I don't know what their particular
entirely
orders are.
irrelevant. What was your oath of enlistment?
I'll
obey the orders.
Yeah. Of the President of the United States and those appointed over me.
And I'm sure there's something in there that says the lawful orders.
Lawful orders.
The lawful orders, not just the orders.
Lawful
if
orders.
If you look at it and you go, this isn't right, this isn't lawful, this violates
how do you know it's? If you're in that situation, how do you know if it's lawful or not? Because
you have to get a whole.
There was a legitimate scenario where the president needed to counterstrike with a nuclear weapon, so that way to avoid a nuclear attack on the United States, and he legitimately ordered that, and you're like, well, this doesn't seem right, and you don't follow through, and the nuke doesn't get launched, and then we get nuked first.
Well, no, because when he sends the codes, it's not just him sending a code. It's a code and it's an order, and in the orders, if you've ever, well, not if you've ever, I know you have, you've.
Well, I'm not familiar with the exact nuclear.
They have five. Well, it's still going to be at least the 5-part system of who, where, when, why, how, and follow-on actions.
Yeah.
And if that report, if it says codes and coordinates, and that's all you get, you ain't firing that nuke. If it's codes, coordinates, here's why.
I get what you're saying, but right now the president could fill out that correctly and make it misleading or whatever. We're relying right now on Donald Trump to do the right thing, and I think he is going to continue to do the right thing. But if he was malicious, we have no way of knowing because we can't read people's minds. If he wanted to do the wrong thing, what would stop him at this point in time? If all of this was to secretly start a war with Russia and end the world, he has that potential to do that. And it's very difficult to tell at what point would it be a lie and what point would it, I mean,
on launching a nuke, there's at least 12 people that it goes through before the keys are turned and the buttons pushed.
All right.
So there's 12 different people that can look at it and go, I need more information, and make an emergency call before it gets to actually being launched.
Okay.
I know you're playing like the devil's advocate here, but...
Yes, maybe it's not as easy as what I have pictured in my head. Whereas if you were a private citizen who owned a nuke...
Yeah.
My question is, how would you get one in the first place as a private citizen without having to go through all these hoops and without having a system in place like what we apparently have for our current nuclear system? So
I can build one.
The idea of mutually assured destruction makes perfect sense to me, and I'm thinking if somebody else has a nuke and has a potential to use it against me, I'm gonna want equal kind of firepower to be like, hey, you do something to me, you're dead too. I want equal footing between everyone. In which case, if somebody has a nuke as a private or as a country or a private citizen, I would like the ability to retaliate in kind.
I say I could build one. It'd be in like a Ryder truck, like the fucking Oklahoma City bombing. But I could build one. It wouldn't fly. It wouldn't be a rocket, but I could build one.
Okay. Cars that go 200 miles an hour do not have to be able to travel 200 miles an hour. That's from Just In Case. That doesn't make any sense to me. A car that goes 200 miles an hour does not have to be able to travel 200 miles.
He's saying that just because your rifle can have that high of a capacity mag doesn't mean it has to. Just because the ability to the fire rate is there doesn't mean you have to burn through the rounds that fast.
Okay, because the fire rate's throwing me off on that. It seems silly, the 500 rounds per minute fire rate. That seems.
Oh no, that's true.
Yeah,
it's true. You'll melt your barrel, but it's true.
Yeah. So I guess it's
It's
because
not a
they're
realistic
saying,
sustain.
okay, in 10 seconds it shot this many, and then we'll just, hey, if we multiply that by 6, we get the 500 number. Yeah. All right. So.
Yeah, I sent you 2 videos through the Twitter thing. The second one you could have played on the stream.
Okay.
The first one, I don't know, but the second one you could have, because I know the guy that made it.
License, you have to get a form approved, pay $200 tax. I'm not sure what he's talking about. Oh, is he talking about the grenade thing? Yeah. So yes.
I don't know. I only have
You do need a license. You can get a license for that. You can get a license for a grenade, and yes, there is a $200 fee for a grenade. The hard part is finding someone willing to sell you a grenade and establishing a credible relationship with an arms dealer willing to do that.
I could go to Army Navy Surplus and get a demilitarized one and then repack it myself.
No, yeah, you'd have to make it yourself, but you can't. It's companies don't like to. There's too much of a risk with a grenade, and they're not going to sell it to some 19-year-old punk with a bad record. That's what my thoughts were on the grenade. It's more than likely
even a military grade smoke grenade on the civilian market's like $200
Yeah, more than likely it was a smoke grenade or a tear gas or something along those lines, or maybe it was a makeshift grenade, but I thought it was weird that they kept that in the report and they didn't elaborate on that. So maybe it's not a big deal to whoever was reporting it.
He went to the fireworks store last 4th of July and he got one of those little things that says grenade on the side, and that's what it was.
Yeah, thanks for joining, if anybody's still here. Alright, so I was going to conclude. I was hoping that Ham would have stayed around for this, but I guess this is going much later than it should have. So, I think mutually assured destruction worked out pretty well when it comes to the Cold War, right? The arms race between Russia and the United States. And we didn't end up destroying everything because they're like, well, this is pointless. This is... You know, if I'm going to win, I want to be able to stick around to enjoy the victory instead of being blasted out of oblivion.
The argument against mutually assured destruction becoming viable or becoming, acceptable or whatever is look at Israel and Iran. Israel got nukes. Now Iran wants nukes because Iran wants to be able to retaliate.
Mm-hmm.
In the event that Israel hits them.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I think it's a little more one-sided. I think that between the two of them, Iran is more likely to use theirs. But that's personal bias.
Not in the time period that Israel got their nukes. Israel got their nukes in the late 60s.
No. Well, Israel got their nukes in the late 60s and hasn't used them.
Yeah,
Iran may get their Iran may get their nukes in 2020 or the 2020s, and then they might use them.
How many violent military actions? How many violent military actions has Israel been involved in since they got their nukes? A lot. How many violent military actions has Iran been involved in since Israel got their nukes? Nowhere near as many. So they have this brother next door with nukes that has shown over the last 60 years how violent they are or how violent they can be, and they want to be able to protect themselves. I still disagree with either one of those countries having nukes, but yeah, I mean, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by that, and maybe we'll have a stream discussing that, because as far as I know, Israel is always on the defensive, not on the offensive.
If you poke a dog and it bites you, are you on the offensive or are you on the defensive?
You're saying Israel is provoking Iran?
Israel has provoked Libya or all the countries around Israel. Israel's been poking for the last 60 years.
If you say so. All right, we'll discuss that in another stream. I'll make that or jot that down. And we'll have a discussion about that because I've got the complete opposite view. Okay, I think that was the other stuff is just talking about Ham. So I did want to finish up my conclusion here. So I'm pretty sure everybody's heard this phrase. The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, and we've seen this countless times. The shooter at the church or whatever. Forget what the guy's name was. I'm drawing a blank. Do you remember the shooter at the church? He was stopped
I don't remember his name.
He was stopped by a church member who had a gun. Had no
Yeah.
church members
No.
had a gun, he could have kept on going on his spree.
It was stopped by a guy that lived 2 blocks away that went there barefoot with his gun, loading his rifle on the way.
Yeah. So it was a local community member. It wasn't the SWAT team. It wasn't the FBI. It wasn't the cops. It was a local citizen. So, and people have this mindset when they think back to the Wild West, because they've got it. Hollywood has distorted it, where there's gunfights around, the OK Corral and all of these, Billy the Kid, and everybody's robbing everybody else and everybody's shooting up. If you look at the actual statistics that are available at the time, crime rate was fairly low, even when everybody was carrying a gun openly on their hip. Like, it was the common thing where everybody had a firearm. Everybody in the entire town.
People like to go off the romanticized version of history instead of the cold hard facts.
Because and the other, so there's 2 things that I really like about the Wild West, or what's called the Wild West, but that's the storybook version of it. What actually, it was led to more peaceful societies, because if you're a bank robber and you're going to come in, you're fighting an entire town. You're not just fighting the bank guards or the police force. That entire town has an interest in keeping that money in the bank, because that's their fucking money. And if you stole from them and you got away, they all rallied together, formed a posse, and hunted you down.
Yeah, that's why there really wasn't very many bank robberies. They were hitting the transport trains, not the banks themselves.
The big ones were hitting the trains and stuff like. Yeah, hang on, give me 5 minutes. I got somebody knocking at my door. So, I really like that aspect. So yes, there was a bit of vigilante justice, which I personally don't have a problem with. Vigilante justice, provided the facts are actually there, which vigilante justice did lead to things like lynch mobs and things along those lines. But provided hey, this person definitely did the thing, I don't see any problem with citizens forming a group together, going out and dealing with the situation. But right now we've got this lack of responsibility, and this is something I tried to hammer home repeatedly through this talk, because that's what I think is going on in this. Is like, oh, it's not my job to look at that crazy kid who might shoot up the school. That's the FBI's job. It's not my job to protect my fellow citizens. That's the police's job. It's not my job. It's the military. It's never my job or my responsibility. So it's much easier for me to turn blind eyes or to ignore things. Now, had the shooter, Cruz or whatever, in the school, he was 19, right? And I don't even know if he was supposed to be at the school. That's what's kind of confusing, because I thought he got kicked out of that school, and he's 19, so shouldn't he either be graduated or on the way to graduating?
I've heard 19, 20. I've heard 19, 20, and 21 on his age. I've heard 3 different ages.
But imagine if everybody over the age of 16 or whatever had a weapon in that school, and that was the normal thing, where it was like the Wild West, where everybody's got one on their hips just in case. He walks in and he started raising it and pointing at people. Everybody else is boom. Because everybody else would, he may get 1 or 2, but he's not going to take them all out. It's more than mutually assured destruction. It's all of us versus the one crazy person who wants to see us harmed. It's
20 years ago. Yeah, 20 years ago, pretty much every state south of the Mason-Dixon line, you could go into school and start shooting, and then pretty much everybody in the high school, assuming it's like a high school and down south, they're right next to each other, they're going to go out to their truck and grab their gun off their gun rack and come back in and go, okay, you want to play?
Yeah, that's what I think we need more of a society that's like, because if you look, our society wants justice. We want order. We want things to move peacefully. And that one person coming in and causing chaos, we want to eliminate that so that way we can go back to our normal order. That's one person versus the majority, or a handful of people, or maybe the vast, vast minority of people who want to see that chaos, compared to the vast majority who want the order. So why?
Did you say you had somebody at your door?
Yeah. So I'm wrapping this up here. So It seems a little odd that the solution to this is, well, we want to take away the weaponry and the means to fight back from the people who want order, who want things to be normal and stable and lawful. That seems to be the solution to people on the left, is we'll just disarm everybody. And I would rather have all of the people who want order to have as much firepower as they need and as much ability and capability to fight back against the people who want the chaos, people who want to cause the destruction. To me, that's the only actual solution, because you can't disarm the mentally insane to the point where they stop trying to destroy everything. Even if we remove guns, and then they'll switch to, I mean, they've shown this, they switch to other weaponry, knives. We'll have to get rid of chainsaws. We'll have to get rid of nail guns. We'll have to get rid of all of these different. We'll have to get rid of vehicles, because these people will resort to whatever they need to in order to perform these violent acts, because that is their goal. Their goal is to sow chaos. But there are more people who want order than there are people who want chaos, and that's how we win, is by making sure that we can either this is the law of armed conflict, where you are supposed to show more authority and more power than the person that you're dealing with, in which case the person who wants chaos, we need to have either superior fire powers or superior numbers.
Superior chaos.
If we limit our firepower, our numbers won't matter as much. We always want the upper hand in that situation. So the argument for removing firearms just doesn't work for me. It's because I know the numbers are in our favor. So the firepower has to equal our numbers. Otherwise, that one crazy person with firepower that is superior is going to outmatch our numbers. And that's what we're seeing in a lot of these places that happen in gun-free zones. I mean, I don't know how many times you have to see this. Mass shooters don't go to to areas where guns are. They don't go to gun ranges and start shooting up people. They don't go to military training schools. They go to schools where they're gun-free on campus. They go to movie theaters where there's security detectors in the front of it. They go to all these areas where they know they're not going to face resistance except from maybe the security guards. In which case the odds are in their favor, and we don't want the odds to ever be in favor of the criminals. Which is why I named this thing criminal control. How do you control criminals? You have to have superior firepower and superior numbers. That's how law enforcement works. You never take one officer up to one suspect. You always want to make sure that two officers go up to one suspect, two or more. You don't ever want them to be on the same footing as you. Because they could be peaceful and they could have just made a mistake, whatever. They could be willing and comparable. But if they turn the odds and they actually fight back against you, it's 1v1. The odds are not in your favor. You want to make sure the odds are always in your favor, which is why arming the entire populace makes more sense to me than banning all the guns. And like I said in the stream, if we got rid of the drug war and all that sort of thing, the gangs would virtually be eliminated, because they've got, that's a huge portion of their finance. And legalize drugs and legalize prostitution, they've got no income stream, and they're going to have to resort to petty crime, which is it's going to wash out within a couple of weeks or months, because that's not a sustainable model. Like, oh, you rob some places a couple of times, the security increases, and now robbery is not an option to fund your gang, and the gang dies. It starves itself. And that gets rid of 90% of our gun problems in the United States. So if we got rid of the prohibition that's feeding these things, we would see these drastic number changes in our gun, and then all of these arguments against guns would be nearly entirely deflated. But that's my solution. That's what I think about the situation. And this has gone on way too long, so I'm just gonna wrap this or end this. And BTK, you can say anything else you want to add if you've got it for the next minutes or so.
You're gonna just stay on the Hangouts.
If you wanted to add a little thing at the end, but
okay, yeah.
Oh wait, so I mean, yeah, I guess we should chill as well. So I keep forgetting to do that.
I'm gonna be buying a new tablet probably tonight, so I can do my art more efficiently. So I'm on Twitter, _BTK. I'm in multiple Discords. Pretty easy to find.
Yeah, I will link everybody's Twitter stuff in the description here, or their channel if they have it. So everybody who showed up, I'll do that later. I gotta check to see if I did that on the last video. I can't remember or not. Okay, so I will also link, remember I'm working on my website, funfair.com. Right now we're shooting for a May 1st launch, although I'm still trying to figure out a way to get the funding going for that. I think I've found a solution, but I won't know for sure until 2 weeks or more, if that is a viable way to fund the about $10,000 I need to make that that site fully, or it can work right now, but it's going to be kind of like limping out of the gate, and I want it to be sprinting out of the gate, which is why I'm trying to get 10,000 for that. There's something else I was supposed to show. Yeah, anyway, check out everybody else's who's been in these streams, and thanks for joining me, because I can't remember the other thing. I'll probably remember it next week or 5 minutes after I hang up. All right, thank you for joining and sticking around for as long as you guys did.